I've changed my mind.
Welcome, everyone, to Watch Therapy Unfold live with Dr. David Burns. And we're really excited to do this live workshop with you today. We're also really grateful for our volunteer, Madeline, who you're going to meet later on in the workshop today. Um, we're going to start by presenting some information about the TEAM-CBT model, and then we're going to do a hopefully wonderful live demonstration, and then we'll take some questions at the end and share with you some ways that you can continue to learn and grow and train with us. So we are going to start with a poll, actually, just to learn a little bit about who you are, our audience. So let me get that started. So
Do
tell
we
us
know how
about
many
yourself.
are registered, Jill?
Well, we had over 2,000 people registered and people
Oh, wow.
just starting to join. We don't have 2,000 with us yet, but so just tell us about yourself. Are you a member of the general public? Are you a therapist who's joining us in the fast track course, which starts, well, it starts today, but starts live next week? Are you a therapist who's not in the fast track course? And then we get to learn a little bit about who you are. I'm going to give you like 10 more seconds because the numbers are still rolling in, and then I'll share the results. Okay. So about 13% of you are members of the general public, and then 12% of you are therapists that are joining us for the fast track course, and 76% of you are therapists who are not yet enrolled in the fast track course. All right, so about 87% of you are therapists, it looks like. So just helpful to know our audience. And I think we'll have, hopefully our presentation today is gonna, be helpful to all of you, whether you're a therapist or a member of the general public. And so first, actually, I just want to introduce you to David Burns, who is my dear friend and colleague and world-renowned psychiatrist, CBT legend, best-selling author, and creator of the awesome Feeling Great app, which David is going to tell us about later today and is offering for free right now. So, hi, David, and we're going to hear a lot from David today, and everything we talk about and teach is based on David's awesome TEAM-CBT model. I'll tell you a little bit about who we are at the Feeling Good Institute and who I am. So, our mission is to elevate the practice of therapy so that patients can recover faster and more fully. We train and certify therapists in TEAM-CBT, this powerful framework developed by David Burns. And we help therapists move through a sort of structured 5-level certification process to really enhance and build their skills. And Feeling Good Institute was founded by Maor Katz, Angela Crum, and myself. We all had trained with David at Stanford many, many years ago. And back then, the only way to learn TEAM-CBT was from David at Stanford or from David in some of his intensives and workshops he did around the world. And we started Feeling Good Institute with the kind of dream to make David's tools, techniques, and training style more accessible to people kind of around the world without compromising depth or quality. And everything that we do today with our trainings kind of mirrors that mission. And this is hopefully an interesting and maybe shocking slide, but it turns out that therapist effectiveness over time does not improve with experience alone, but only gets better with deliberate practice. And so due to this research and our experience with David's teaching style, we don't just teach techniques. We really try to replicate David's training style, which is built on the idea that we only get better as therapists through practice and feedback. And we actually double down on this philosophy and kind of really lean into it. We've added the data-driven, research-based, deliberate practice exercises when we work with therapists to really help you guys build your therapy skills. And so sort of practice, feedback, more practice is the way that we train therapists. And we've been seeing, great progress when we stick to that model. And so at the end of the workshop today, after we hopefully do an awesome work with Madeline, our volunteer, we're going to share with you a little bit about the fast track course, which is a course that we've created to help therapists to not only learn through didactics, but to have great opportunities to practice and build their skills and really kind of level up their training. So what we'll do today is kind of the tip of the iceberg, and then we'll help you to learn how you can learn more at the end of today. And so you'll learn both opportunities for training if you're a therapist, and then opportunities for working on yourself if you're a patient or a therapist using the Feeling Great app today. I also need to make sure I'm covering before we get started, and we're about to get started in the content, just how you get your continuing education credit if you're a therapist. So make sure that you're here until 1 p.m. Pacific for 4 hours, and at the end, we'll share the link to the CE survey. And at 1 o'clock today, Pacific time, you need to complete the CE survey in order to get your CE credits. Then you'll get your certificate within a week of today. So you won't get it immediately. And if you have any issues, just contact us at certification@feelinggoodinstitute.com. These are our learning objectives, what we will surely be covering, and lots more today. I won't read them to you. And then this is our plan. We'll teach you about the model of TEAM-CBT. We'll do a demonstration. We'll share some teaching highlights, get some feedback from our volunteer, and hear from all of you, get some questions, and connect with you all through some Q&A. If you do have questions throughout the workshop today, I just want to say, rather than sending them to David or myself, please send them to Mike Christensen in the chat box. And Mike, if you can make sure that people can chat you directly so you can collect these. And then I'll start by just going over the model, and then I'm going to turn things over to David to dive more into the specifics. So the TEAM-CBT model, this is an acronym for how we believe all effective therapy works, based on the T stands for testing. Testing means that we use measures of symptoms and the therapeutic alliance at the beginning and end of every session with every patient, so that we can track progress over time, so that we can connect with our patients and get feedback and repair alliance ruptures. So we look at, are we making progress within sessions and between sessions? This helps us to really inform therapy, how we're doing and how we need to pivot and make changes and address alliance ruptures. The E in TEAM stands for empathy, and that is that we spend a lot of time, as you'll see us do today, connecting with our patients, listening, not telling them how to change and what to change, but really understanding what the world is like through their eyes, and connecting with even difficult to connect with patients. And the A in TEAM stands for assessment of resistance, or sometimes paradoxical agenda setting, depending on when you've learned it. The idea here is that we also are really interested in understanding why our patients are thinking and feeling the way that they are, and kind of making them proud of those symptoms, thinking about what are good reasons not to change, what are good reasons to kind of keep doing what they've been doing, and really understand their resistance so that we can help to melt it away. And then the M in TEAM stands for methods, and that's what most of you think of when you think of CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral interpersonal methods that we use with our patients to really bring about, rapid and profound change. And the idea is that we have this framework that we always fall back on, and it's kind of a pathway to enlightenment for us as therapists and for our patients. And you'll see David and I really carefully and methodically kind of work through this framework today. So I'm going to let David talk a little bit now, and then we'll kind of take turns.
Well, one thing is that the TEAM structure is a structure for how, what research shows and what we believe through our clinical experience, how all effective therapy works. It's not a new school of therapy.
Sorry.
And it's also the sequence we follow in therapy sessions. We'll follow it today. First, we're going to do testing, and then we're going to empathize with Madeline, and then we're going to have her grade us in empathy. And we think that empathy, our research and clinical experiences, that it, unlike the humanistic therapist who think empathy is everything, we think it's really desirable, but it has little or no healing power if you're measuring things like depression or panic or a relationship conflict, but it's a necessary first step to develop that trust with the patient and that warmth and that acceptance, especially if you're going to use powerful methods, which we are. And then we'll go on to the assessment of resistance. And you know, in American culture or Western civilization, and to a certain extent now in the Asia and China as well, there's a tendency to think of emotional upset in terms of a series of mental disorders that you can read all about them in the DSM. But the problem with that formulation is that, you know, if you've been depressed and anxious and then some shrink tells you have a major depressive disorder, you think that person knows something about you above and beyond the fact that you're depressed, but they don't. That's just some arbitrary term in the DSM. But the problem is when you're told that you have a disorder, it creates a lot of shame potentially, as well as the feeling that an expert's going to have to fix you, as if you have a broken leg, you'd have to go to an expert. And so at the assessment of resistance, we're going to try to transform all of that shame into pride. And so instead of feeling broken and defective, we want our patients to see that your depression, your anxiety, your inadequacy, your anger, your hopelessness, whatever, comes from your core values as a human being, and that these your so-called symptoms really reveal something beautiful about you, not a mental disorder. There are 3 or 4 true mental disorders, but most of the hundreds of syndromes described in DSM are not, to my way of thinking, or from any philosophy of science or empirical point of view, not true mental disorders. And another thing about this sequence, and then once we've melted away the resistance, we jump in with methods, and we're agnostic about methods. I use a lot of cognitive techniques because our research has indicated and confirmed that negative thoughts do, in fact, that is the cause of depression and anxiety. So we certainly direct a lot of the methods at reducing and challenging distorted negative thoughts, but we really use methods drawn from over a dozen schools of therapy. So I know we're jumping around here on the slides. And the last point that I wanted to make is that one of the unique features is, like today, we're going to do an extended session. I always do an extended session, a two-hour session. You don't have to do that to do team. Jill uses, for the most part, normal, 1-hour sessions and does beautiful work. But the neat thing about a double session is you can often complete a course of therapy in one double session, which is what we'll try to do today. We can't always do that, but I think it's kind of a new benchmark for the behavioral sciences, because we usually think if someone's depressed, that's going to take months, years, or even more than a decade of treatment. And we're going to try to complete that process in a very short period of time. And as far as the T== testing, I've developed something called the Brief Mood Survey, and you can see it in your handout package, but it measures depression, anxiety, depression, suicidal urges, and various other things quickly and accurately. It uses brief assessment instruments, like the depression scale has an accuracy of about 0.95. It's much more accurate, say, than the Beck Depression Inventory or the PHQ-9. And one of the unique things is we measure symptoms in the here and now, not over the past 2 weeks like the Beck or the PHQ, because we want to know how the patient feels at the start and at the end of every therapy session. And we're looking for changes within the therapy session. So this format makes both the therapist and the patients accountable for the first time. A lot of therapists don't measure. They think of what they're doing as kind of mysterious, like they think they're providing you know, a corrective emotional experience for patients, or some such thing, or resolving subconscious conflicts. But we're into a scientific, data-driven form of therapy where we measure things and then use those measurements to find out how effective or ineffective we've been. And I would say that's the most important thing in the team model. It represents a radical philosophical departure from conventional therapy, and it requires courage on the part of the therapist, because you'll discover that your perceptions of patients' feelings or your perceptions of your own empathy will, for the most part, not be accurate, but you will see accurately how the patient is feeling and how the patient feels about you with these brief, highly accurate assessment instruments. And it's like if you have an emergency room, this would be like having an x-ray machine for the first time. And the testing is like giving you, the therapist, this x-ray machine that we use at the start and end of every patient, with every session, with every patient. And it is mind-blowing and powerful, and TEAM owes its life, its creation, to the use of these instruments.
And David, I just wanted to mention one thing on this slide. We mentioned the handout on page 8. So I just wanted to make a few comments about the handout packet because we're getting some questions. So you all were sent Zoom reminder emails. That's how you got in today. And in your Zoom reminder emails, you were given both the handout packet and the slides. And actually, the slides are not necessary by any means that you have them today. The handout packet would be very helpful. And so if you didn't already go into your email, find that Zoom reminder, and go ahead and download the handout packet. And if you're struggling with it though, and you don't have it because your company has a firewall and for some reason you can't download the handout packet, it's okay. It's not entirely necessary. And we will follow up with people, after the workshop, but we won't be able to help people individually. But Mike also is dropping the link to the handout packet as well as to the slides in the chat box today. So you have many ways to access it. Do you want to say any more, or you feel like you're?
No, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then another goal of testing is to monitor therapeutic progress as well as the therapeutic alliance. So at the end of the session, patients will take a highly sensitive empathy scale, complete it, helpfulness scale, and various measures of the relationship with the therapist. And will also be eye-opening to therapists who aren't used to measuring your therapeutic empathy. My research at the Stanford Inpatient Unit and other locations has indicated and confirmed by independent investigators that therapists have less than a 10% accuracy of knowing how empathic you are during sessions. And you can think you're the most wonderful therapist in the world, and your empathy scales may be failure with every patient at every session. And if you have the courage to discover that and then to get some training and empathy, you can transform your therapeutic style in weeks, really, by practicing certain empathy drills and get great at the thing that you're weak at. But you have to have the courage to look at how you're doing through the eyes of your patient. And that's something very foundational in team therapy. And you want to go back to the empathy now, Jill?
Uh, you
Or
did.
I mean, I can continue
Sure.
either way.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. Yeah, as David is saying, empathy is necessary but not sufficient, right? So we have a lot more to offer beyond empathy, and yet I know when I learned cognitive behavioral therapy a very long time ago, I learned all the methods, but I actually didn't learn a framework for connecting with patients and for really understanding them deeply. And so I felt super grateful when I started learning and training with David that there was this whole kind of empathy component. And so you'll see us spend a good deal of time today with our volunteer Madeline, connecting with her and using the 5 secrets of effective communication. So we say it oftentimes will take something like 30 minutes with a new patient to just listen, to repeat, to kind of deepen understanding. And sometimes takes longer. Sometimes we, as I think David mentioned, but we'll ask our patient, how are we doing on empathy? We'll ask them for a grade, A, B, C, D. We'll ask them, what is it that I'm not quite understanding? Really important that our patient feels totally understood before we then move on to assessing resistance and using methods. These are sort of our empathy do's, meaning what do we try to do when we're using the 5 secrets of effective communication? Well, we try to paraphrase what the patient says, not in a robotic way, but in an authentic way. We call that thought empathy. We also try to acknowledge how the patient might be feeling. So oftentimes patients will not use feeling words, but we will. We'll say, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated or irritated, annoyed, anxious, and make sure that our patient, that we understand how our patient's feeling and that we reflect that back to them. We also provide compassion and warmth using I feel statements. So we're going to share how we're feeling. We're feeling kind of moved or feeling sad for our patient. And that's kind of how we connect as human beings. And we also do something, it's not on the slide, called disarming, where we really see the world through our patient's eyes, where we really agree with and connect with our patient. And that's this piece about sort of go with the patient to the gates of hell. If our patients are suffering tremendously, we're not trying to jump in and change that. We're trying to really show them that we deeply understand that, and it builds trust and connection, before, again, coming in with sort of the big methods. And the empathy don'ts. This is maybe more important than the do's because so many therapists kind of get in their way. Of doing effective empathy. So when we're trying to empathize and connect with our patients, we're not actually trying to help them. We're not trying to change them. We're not trying to cheerlead or make them feel better, make interpretations, or give advice. We're trying to do a lot less, right? We're trying to listen, connect, see the world through their eyes, and not change them and not give them advice. And did you want to say anything about empathy before we move on here, David?
No, I thought you did just a great job, Jill.
Okay. And then assessment of resistance. Again, we touched on this, but just to deepen this a little bit, there's 2 different kinds of resistance that we see in our patients, and one is called outcome resistance. That's how, when our patients may feel a bit ambivalent about the outcome that they say that they want. Do they really want the outcome that they're asking for? So, student, let's say a college student who comes to us and is nearly flunking out of school and is feeling incredibly sad and anxious. Do they really want to feel on top of the world, fantastic, completely good, under the circumstances? Would that make sense? And why not? Maybe they want to hang on to some level of their anxiety because it kind of serves them well and motivates them, or their depression shows what they value. And so we spend a good deal of time addressing and then sort of melting away outcome resistance to make sure our patients can sort of argue for change and convince us that they really do want the change that they say they want. And then process resistance is kind of a different ball game. And this is the idea that even if the patient can convince us that they really do want to get better, that they really do want to feel happy or content or not anxious, are they going to be willing to do the work that's required to get there, right? Because coming to therapy doesn't mean just showing up and talking for 50 minutes once a week. It means doing homework, or it means facing their fears, or it means having difficult conversations. Are they going to be willing to do the work required to actually get that positive outcome? And so we have lots of methods that you'll see us use and that we use with our patients to address and then reduce resistance and thereby kind of boost motivation. And then David and I love this slide, which is ask yourself what happens when you don't address resistance, right? What happens when your patient feels a bit ambivalent or mixed or is dragging their feet in therapy, not doing the work of therapy, and you just kind of cheerlead them and prod them along. And then it feels a lot like this, right? It feels like you're pushing your patient to change while they're digging their heels in. And that's probably the worst kind of therapy for both patient and therapist. It leads to therapist burnout and, tension between patient and therapist, probably patient dropout or just seeing patient for, years and years while they kind of yes but you. So we're trying to avoid engaging in this kind of therapy.
And I might I sometimes make outrageous statements that I totally believe, but other people get ticked off sometimes. But what I might say is that if you've really learned team, it becomes virtually impossible for a patient to resist you. And by resistance, we mean any time the patient is, yes butting you, or, not doing their homework, or questioning things, that there's a kind of tension in the relationship rather than two people working together in a joyous way to change the patient's life.
You want to talk about this, David?
Yeah, well, sure. The one of the tools we use in the paradoxical agenda setting, we'll often ask, what what would you like in today's session? And we'll ask Madeline that, and often the patient, what they're wanting is to make all of their negative thoughts and feelings disappear. And we have this thing, the magic button. If you press this magic button, you'll go into a state of euphoria with no effort. Will you? And all your guilt and shame and depression and anxiety will disappear in a flash. Will you press that magic button? And the vast majority of patients says, yes, I'd press it. Show me the button. I want to press it right now. And we say, well, we have no magic button, but we have some pretty magical techniques. And I think if we use them, we could probably achieve that goal by the end of today's session. But I don't think it'd be a good idea. I'm not convinced to use those techniques. And then the patient will get upset and say, well, why not? And I say, because maybe we need to look at your positive thoughts and feelings from your daily mood log. You've got 6 different negative feelings that are very elevated, and you've got 8 negative thoughts that you believe 100%. And before we make all that disappear, maybe we should look at them one at a time and ask two questions, or maybe even 3. But the 2 questions would be, how is this negative feeling or thought helping me? What are some benefits of feeling anxious or ashamed or angry or whatever? And the second would be, what does this negative thought or feeling show about me and my core values as a human being that's positive and awesome? And so we go through a bunch of the negative thoughts and feelings and generate a list of positives. That's what positive reframing is. And typically, we can come up with a list of maybe 10 to 15, sometimes 20 or more overwhelming positives that have been hiding in the patient's negative feelings. I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit here, but then at that point, we can say, my goodness, why would you want to press that magic button? Because if you do, and all your negative thoughts and feelings disappear, then all these positives, your high standards, your compassion for other people, your anxiety, which keeps you vigilant and keeps you and your family safe, and et cetera, et cetera. All those values will go down the toilet along with your negative thoughts and feelings. Why would you want to do that? And so we've intentionally driven the patient into a state of confusion. And then that's very important, because they thought they want to have zeros on all their mood scores, but they don't really, because of all these beautiful things about them. And we need to bring that to conscious awareness. And then we'll go on to some of the next slides and talk about how we resolve that with the magic dial. Well, yeah. This is the positive benefit. I'll say what the conclusion is. Is that then we say to the patient, suppose instead of a magic button, we had a magic dial, so you could dial each emotion down to some lower level. Now, at the beginning of the session, your depression was at 100. How much depression would you want to have on a 0 to 100 by the end of today's session? How much would be enough to keep all those positive values, the beautiful things that your depression says about you, keep all those core values and benefits, but suffer much less? And then the person might say, oh, 10%, I want to lower it to 10%. And then I might say, are you sure that's enough? Can I try to sell you on 15% or maybe 20%? And now this is another paradox at work, because I, the therapist, am trying to sell the patient into maintaining the symptoms as much at as high levels as possible. And paradoxically, that induces the determination of the patient to want to lower them to some lower level. And typically on the goals, after the positive reframing, we have a goal column right on the daily mood log. And so often they'll have a 5% or a 0% or a 3% or 10%, sometimes a 20%, but they generally want to lower all their feelings to a much lower level. But what's happening, there's a kind of magic happening, that the shame disappears and they get pride, because they see, and they have to see this for real. It can't be an intellectual thing. It has to be something they feel at the gut level, that these symptoms really do show a lot about their inner beauty and their values as a human being, and that these negative thoughts and feelings really are helping them in many ways. And so they no longer feel defective, broken, or hopeless, as you would if you think these are all from my mental disorders. It's from your mental orders, from your what's right about you, not what's wrong about you. And paradoxically, once we sell the patient on how beautiful these symptoms are and get them to see that, the resistance to change suddenly disappears. And that's why we can get, most of the time, such dramatic and rapid changes in the treatment of depression, anxiety, and all kinds of negative feelings. And if when I was a psychiatric resident, you would have told me that it's possible to, get someone completely out of depression in a single therapy session, I would have said, you need to take some Thorazine because you're hallucinating. It was so far beyond what we thought in those days. And still, many of the training programs emphasize that to treat depression, it's going to take months or years, and some people say more than 10 years. Well, I'll keep talking a little bit. You can jump at any point,
Okay.
Jill, because when you talk, it's just so beautiful, your teaching. But the methods, we use over 100 methods that I've created or learned and extensively modified, but they're drawn from a good 12 schools of psychotherapy, not only cognitive therapy, but behavioral therapy, interpersonal therapy, psychodynamic therapy, paradoxical therapy, and so on and so forth. And in the early days of cognitive therapy, I used to say that if someone has a thought like, I'm not as good as I should be, maybe some of you in the audience sometimes tell yourself that I'm not as good as I should be. And if you're one of the 80 or 90% therapists, I'm sure you have a lot of patients who say, I'm not as good as I should be. But if you've done a skillful assessment of resistance in the sequence TEA, just like that, generally only a few methods will be needed to, identify and explain the distortions, double standard, externalization of voices, and then whammo, the patient smashes the negative thoughts, with a tremendous power and clarity, and the belief in them goes to low levels, often all the way to zero. Depends on the kind of thought it is. Do you want to jump on the cognitive model, Jill?
Sure, and then you can jump in. You're welcome to jump in. But yeah, the cognitive model is based on the idea that it's our thoughts and not the events of our lives that trigger negative feelings. And so I often tell people if two people experienced exactly the same thing, the way they would feel about it was entirely dependent on what they were telling themselves about that event. Or we can think that if two people prepared exactly the same amount for a presentation and they both went into that presentation equally well prepared, and one was telling themselves, I've got this, I know everything, I am going to kick butt in this presentation. They're going to be feeling really excited and kind of motivated and eager and enthusiastic, and someone else could have prepared exactly the same amount and they're telling themselves, I didn't do enough, and this isn't going to go well, and if I bomb this, I'm going to lose my job, and they're going to be feeling incredibly anxious and stressed and kind of down and self-critical. And it has nothing to do with the presentation, how much they prepared. It has everything to do with what they're thinking and what they're telling themselves. And that's what drives the feelings that are coming up for them. So we say that, feelings of depression and anxiety are the world's oldest cons, right? They kind of trick us. Our thoughts can really trick us. And to the contrary, or the good news is that when we change the way we think, we can change the way we feel. And so our goal in the cognitive model is to really help people articulate what the thoughts are that are driving their negative emotions. We work really hard, and you'll see us to get really specific about what those thoughts are that are causing each of those feelings. Different thoughts cause feelings of humiliation or shame, and other thoughts might cause feelings of anxiety or worry. And so helping our patients to articulate what those thoughts are, and then using so many different cognitive techniques as well as behavioral techniques and other techniques to really kind of crush the negative thoughts is what leads to sort of meaningful change. And that's the cognitive model.
And I would say that people have been arguing about this, philosophers, scientists, all kinds of people, since the time of Epictetus 2,000 years ago. He was the first to say we're disturbed not by the events in our lives, but by our thoughts about them. But everybody doesn't believe it. It's such a basic thing. And some people say, no, it's the other way around. The emotion focused therapists say, no, feelings cause thoughts. Thoughts don't cause feelings. And so we've recently tested this in two large databases with an N of nearly 7,000 users of our Feeling Great app, and have proven for the first time that negative thoughts are, in fact, the cause of depression. That's what causes depression. That's what the research showed, as well as other negative feelings, and that this is a direct causal effect in the brain. And it's a high speed causal effect. And at the very moment you stop believing the thoughts, in that moment, the depression can disappear. So this is, although an ancient model, it's a new model. It's a powerful model, and all of the therapy is directed at crushing and exposing those distorted negative thoughts that are the cause of the patient's suffering.
And then one of the methods that we use after we've done a good job of articulating the negative thoughts on the daily mood log, which we'll share with you today, and after we address motivation and resistance, so that positive reframing and kind of magic dial that David talked to you about, one of the methods that we use, and it's one you'll see us use today for sure, we always, kind of lead with it actually, is called identify and explain the distortions. And I like to think of distortions as essentially thinking errors. They're kind of these quick thinking errors that our minds make when we're feeling down or anxious. And You have listed here the thinking errors, and also actually it is in your handout packet on page 2 of the daily mood log at the bottom. You can see the list of cognitive distortions. And I would say that, when I learned cognitive behavioral therapy a very long time ago, originally in graduate school, I identified the distortions, but it was something we would just kind of say, oh yeah, this is all or nothing thinking, or oh yeah, this is discounting the positive, or mental filter, but we didn't do a whole lot with it. We kind of just circled it or wrote it down. And now David has kind of developed this method that's called explain the distortions. And this is where we ask our patients who tell us, oh, this is an example of all or nothing thinking. We say, how is this an example of all or nothing thinking? And do you want to say more about that, David? I know
Yeah,
it's
there's two,
one of your
two, two
favorites.
questions because
Yeah.
this has been a major breakthrough. Because for decades I said, explain. It's fun to identify the distortions, but it's almost never going to help anybody. You need all this other firepower. But then I created explain the distortions, and suddenly we have a lot of firepower to use just that technique to crush the negative thought in many cases. And so let's say you have the thought, like a patient had the thought, I'm deeply and permanently damaged. This was a young man who had 20 years of abuse from his mother and older brother when he was growing up, and he was sure that he was defective and irreversibly, permanently damaged. And then going into that thought, he could see, oh, this is all or nothing thinking, and why, and it's overgeneralization, and why, and this is mental filter and discounting the positive, and emotional reasoning and labeling and should statements and self-blame. And then what you can do is take those one at a time and say, you say this is overgeneralization. Tell us why, Bradley, that thought is an overgeneralization. Tell us why it's an overgeneralization and why that makes the statement untrue or grossly misleading. That's the first question. And the second question, explain why that's incredibly unfair or even cruel, that distortion. And then what he came up with, well, this imagines that I have some kind of metaphysical self that's damaged beyond repair, and and what I'm really doing is focusing on several of my weaknesses and shortcomings, and generalizing to my whole self, and that's totally nutty, because although I do have many weaknesses I have to work on, I also have some tremendous strengths that I can be proud of. I had a rocky start to my life, and I have a lot to show for myself. And then it's cruel because that distortion makes that thought, it's like belittling. It's like what my mother and older brother did to me when I was growing up. Said things like this: oh, you're no good, you're defective, you're damaged goods, no one's going to love you, no, blah blah blah. This really horrible stuff. And he was a little kid when he started hearing this. He didn't have the judgment to challenge it. But that's how you do. And when they answer those two questions, one, why does this distortion make the thought unrealistic and untrue? And second, why does it make it cruel and unfair? Often they'll be able to then generate a positive thought that crushes the negative thought. So it's a powerful new approach.
And then, oh, sorry. Then we talk about, we kind of covered this, but that emotional change can actually occur instantly. And so, I mean, we covered the idea that thoughts drive feelings, but then it also follows that the moment that we can crush a negative thought, the moment this distorted negative thought no longer seems true to us, kind of is the moment that we feel better, that emotional change, or that we, let go of those feelings of depression or anxiety, and that emotional change can happen actually kind of in an instant. And do you want to speak about how this idea goes back 2,000 years?
Well, we've said that already, but such a simple thing that a lot of people don't get it, don't believe it, don't understand it. But that's what our research also showed is that the very moment, this was a big study and independently replicated in two independent databases using highly sophisticated statistical modeling techniques. It confirmed that not only do distorted negative thoughts cause depression and anxiety, they cause it instantly. And the moment you stop believing those thoughts, in that instant, the feelings will change. And just to give you a simplistic example that our colleague, Dr. Mark Noble, a kind of a neuro, a brain expert from the University of Rochester, he said, imagine a cave person in the evening, this fellow, and he hears the snapping of a twig behind him, and that snapping has no effect on him, but his thought does, because he tells himself, "Oh my God, that could be a tiger." So he goes into panic. You see, and that's how the brain works. It creates emotions almost instantly. There's nothing that takes months or years to unfold. The brain is working instantly, like a computer. And then he turns to look and he sees it's his wife who has stepped on a twig and she's just going off to the do something or other. And then he sees that his negative thought was wrong. And in that instance, his anxiety and panic totally disappear. And that's the model that we're using in therapy. And we're being accountable for it because we're measuring things precisely within and from the start to the end of therapy, every therapy session.
And we see this happen all the time in therapy sessions too, where someone can go from kind of sobbing to laughing, and you can see the moment it happens. We have video clips of these things too, when like one no longer believes a negative thought that's been kind of torturing them, and it replaces that with a totally believable, positive or rational thought. And so the necessary and sufficient conditions for emotional change are important. So the idea here is that the positive thought, if we're challenging our negative thoughts with new positive thoughts, and I like to think of them as rational thoughts, not like just, positive affirmations, but the positive thought has to be completely true, right? So you'll see us using a daily mood log today, and we'll be helping our patient or volunteer hopefully move from negative thoughts to positive thoughts. Well, that new positive rational thought has to be completely true. So it can't be a little bit of BS. It can't be a half truth. If a patient says, I believe it 50%, I'm saying, well, what part of it isn't true? We'll need to make this thought completely true in order for it to be helpful to you, right? But the other thing that's super important is that sorry, I was going to say this slightly differently. I'll read what's on the slide and then I'll say what I was going to say is that the moment the patient sees that the negative thought is not true, they will almost instantly feel less depressed and anxious. I was just going to say the other thing is that new positive thought has to completely crush the initial negative thought. So it not only has to be true, but the sky is blue is true, but it's not all that helpful, right? So it has to completely invalidate or crush that original negative thought in order for it to be helpful. And so that's kind of what we wanted to share with you at the outset. Our goal is to work with our volunteer live today, and our volunteer is a therapist who's also a human being. So just like the rest of us, struggling with something and looking for some help. And our hope is that throughout the live session today, you'll be able to kind of anchor yourself in what we've reviewed with you today, kind of noticing where we're doing testing, where we're doing empathy, where we're assessing and reducing resistance, and the methods that we're using. And we'll try to stop and make a couple of teaching points along the way. And then after our live demonstration, which will be somewhere around 2 hours or so, we'll also make some teaching and summary points, and we'll take questions from you guys. So if you have questions throughout, you can send them in the chat. We won't be looking at them during the presentation, but Mike will be kind of summarizing them and then asking some questions of us kind of toward the end of the workshop. And also, David, I just wanted to remind us that we'll take a quick kind of usually bathroom break, maybe after the empathy phase. That's usually what we do, so that Madeline and you and I and their audience can take a quick break. So just people have also messaged me saying, are there any breaks in the 4 hours? So we will take a break, but we can't really promise you exactly what time that's going to be at. And so let's introduce Madeline, right? And maybe I'll wait a second. Let's introduce Madeline and welcome Madeline, and then we can check in with Madeline on her testing and do some empathy. I was also thinking at some point after we go through the daily mood log, I'll stop screen sharing so people can see a large version of the three of us. I think that would be more meaningful for people. So maybe remind me to do that if I forget. So welcome,
Hi, Madeline.
Madeline. Yeah, I think Mike has you now highlighted as well, so everyone should be able to see you. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
So I think what we'll do is we'll start well, David, do you want to start with Madeline's testing, actually, what she shared with us on her brief mood survey, and then we can ask Madeline to share what she's been struggling with, and we can do some empathy and start there.
Oh, yeah, the testing, sure. I'll go through how Madeline is feeling right now at the start of the session. The depression on the brief mood survey, which goes from 0 to 20, is 5. So there's a little bit of depression, but not a huge amount. And the suicide is 0, so there's no suicidal urges. The anxiety, which goes from 0 to 20, is an 18. And so, Madeline, and thanks and hello, Madeline. We're so thrilled to have you and so grateful. Is 18 out of 20, and that's almost the most intense anxiety a human being can experience. The anger is 0. And the positive feelings, which measures happiness and self-esteem and intimacy and optimism and all those positive feelings, goes from 0 to 40. And your score there is 20 out of 40, indicating that although you're not real depressed, you're a little bit, but you're very anxious, but these are robbing you of feelings of happiness. And so that's one thing we'll hope we can work on during the session, not directly, but indirectly. And also the relationship satisfaction with your husband is 25 out of 30. And that indicates a pretty good marital satisfaction. That goes from 0 to 30, and 25 is up toward the top of the scale, but there's probably a little room for improvement in a couple of categories there too. And the thing that you
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to let people know what David's reading now. So later on, when we really get into it with understanding Madeline, we'll share with you some slides and anchor you in your handout packet. What David was going over was just that T equals testing. So what's called the brief mood survey. And we do have a version of it on page 8 in your handout packet, although this is not Madeline's brief mood survey in your handout packet. Madeline just filled this out 5 minutes before this morning and just sent her scores to David and I. So I'm just letting people know that was kind of in the moment how Madeline's been feeling this morning.
Right, and we'll ask you, Madeline, to fill it out again at the end of the session, and then Rachel and David on empathy and helpfulness and so forth, so we can see the impact of the session. And just to get us started, then we'll let you talk, because Jill and I are kind of monopolizing right now. But when you volunteered, you sent a daily mood log, and the upsetting event was that you'd read a news article about an abducted and missing 23-year-old woman. And in response to that, you panicked and felt sad and down and unhappy 85% out of 100. So that's like major feelings of depression. Anxiety was 100 out of 100, anxiety and panic. Feeling inadequacy was 100, so that was another extremely severe negative feeling. And feeling frustrated was 90 out of 100, and upset was 100 out of 100. And then you told us how you have, a lovely daughter who's in college, and that you began to worry about her and had a sleepless night. And boy, I know what a sleepless night can do to worries. They mushroom in the middle of the night, and you had 5 negative thoughts. And then we'll get into a little talking and empathy. But my daughter is not safe being far away and surrounded by creeps and sociopaths. And that's 100%. Number two, I did not adequately prepare her innocent soul for this world. And that was 100% belief in that one. And number three, she is too naive and polite and will be taken advantage of or worse, and that's 90%. I am helpless, so far away, and cannot protect her. That's 100%. And then finally, if anything bad happened to her, I could never forgive myself. And that's 100%. And we have some other information too, but let's do a little
Let's first hear from
empathizing and
Madeline. Yeah, Madeline, let's turn it over to you. Let's kind of more start, yeah, start with just sharing us when you decided to reach out to us and ask for some help and volunteered for today. Tell us what was going on for you. And, David kind of summarized it, but I think it'd be helpful for everyone to hear from you in your words, what you've been struggling with.
Well, I just was at the hair salon and I was reading a magazine. I don't go to the hair salon very often to get my hair done. And I was reading one of those magazines, it had Helen Mirren on the front. And I think she's a great actress. And so that's when I ran across that article about this poor young woman who was abducted right on a cruise ship with her parents. It was just the weirdest kind of story. And this has happened to me before where I read, you read these horrible stories in the news about young women getting abducted and killed. So I was sitting there reading it and I was like, why am I reading this? And then I couldn't let go of it. My brain couldn't let go of it. And my daughter's studying abroad right now. And so I couldn't sleep that night, but I was lying in bed awake going, what is my problem? There's nothing going on here. Why can't I sleep? Why am I so restless? Why can't I sleep? There's nothing wrong. There's no problem right now. Everybody's fine. And I kept thinking, and then finally my thoughts went to that article, and then all these other thoughts started spinning. And I'm sorry if I get emotional, but I get emotional too quickly, and I apologize. I want this to be a really helpful session for everybody. And Jill and David are so generous that I really want to make this good. So let me just
wait, let me just pause and say tears are good, Madeline. It's not like if you cry, it's bad. And
they just get in the way sometimes. So
I'm really happy to just give you a minute to your feelings and share them with us.
Yeah. So, generally I'm an anxious person, but I don't usually spin. And I started spiraling that night, just completely spiraling into the black hole of, my daughter's not safe. This could happen to her. She's naive. She's gotten herself into trouble before, but she's fine now, but this could happen to her. And then I start thinking about that young woman that's been missing. And then I start thinking about the other news articles. It all started with that Natalie Holloway incident. And I'm sure many of you heard of that, especially if you're in the States.
Oh yeah, right.
Do you remember
Horrible.
that? It was just, I thought,
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm never going to let my daughters go away on spring break because and I've never been able to let go of that. And the pain that family must be feeling, and her daughter just went on spring break and was doing what all kids do, go out to a bar and dance. And so that's always stuck in my mind, that I've got to be super vigilant as a parent and be really super protective, but that's not healthy at the same time to be like that. You know, they've got to live their lives, but I just start spiraling into a dark, dark place. And when I read that article in the hair salon, and then that night I couldn't sleep, and then I finally figured out that was why, then I started spiraling back down into all those poor women that were abducted and killed or whatever. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And yeah, that's what happened.
I have a question for you, Madeline, and I just love what you've been saying. Thank you for that, for bringing your heart and your fears to this. When you got tearful a few minutes ago, you kind of pushed it out and said, you know, this just gets in the way. But I think both Jill and David very much admired your tears and your vulnerability at that moment. And I was wondering, when you were feeling tearful, what were you thinking, or what were the pictures in your mind at just that moment?
Thinking about those poor women, young women,
Yeah, just
being taken advantage of, and being abducted
yeah.
and hurt, and it just it's just terrible. It's just so wrong. I'm sorry. It's just so wrong that people can be so cruel to each other like that and hurt somebody like that.
It's mind blowing, isn't it?
And women are at a disadvantage. Women are disadvantaged. Generally,
Yeah.
we're you know, not as big, not as muscular. We're at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just feeling so sad and disturbed and vulnerable, it sounds like, too. Is that
It's amazing, isn't it, Madeline? When we look into the chasm and see the darkness in the hearts of humans, and the joy in inflicting pain and exploitation, and to think that that could happen to anyone, much less someone I love, it's kind of horrifying, almost beyond belief.
Yeah. And so I woke up. I mean, I didn't wake up because I never slept, but got out of bed that morning. I thought, wait a minute. I rarely do this. I mean, I've maybe done this a couple times in my life. I said, this would be perfect for Jill and David's demo. But I was looking at it from a therapist, like, you know, this would be perfect because this doesn't happen. I don't do this often. And I went to a dark place, bad, spiral bad. And I'm a therapist. I know exactly what I needed to do. I know it was not rational. I know all these things, but I could not do it. I was spiraling bad. And it was just crazy because I just don't, it's not something I do all the time. I just don't. I don't watch horror movies because they give me nightmares. So I don't do those things. So I thought, and that's when I wrote you. And then of course anyway.
And Madeline, you said you don't do these things, but I did want to ask, you know, do you sometimes feel worried? I know this was just a moment in time that you shared with us, and a really intense and upsetting moment in time, but maybe you can tell us more. Do you sometimes worry about your daughter?
Oh, of course, all the time, but I don't spiral like
Right.
that.
Yeah. And are these some of the kinds of worries that come up for you, meaning that you worry about her safety, or worry that she's not prepared to protect herself, or worry that something might happen to her? Maybe you can just say a bit more about that.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I think parents do that. You know, we wouldn't be human if we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Picking up a little disconnect there.
Yes, when I asked you, could you say more about that? Was that feeling kind of off-putting to you?
Off-putting when you asked me that question?
Yeah. Well, because you
Oh,
were
no.
saying sort of course, and I was saying maybe you can just share a little bit more about that with us.
Oh, I mean, I just, I'm not constantly worried about them, and I want to about this one in particular. We're talking about one daughter in particular. I'm not constantly worried about her, but ever since um, she started college a couple of years ago, and she just I don't think she's made great decisions about some of the boys that she's young men, I guess, boys really she's gone out with, and so now I guess I my worry is a little bit heightened because I yeah, she didn't make some great decisions, and she's safe and she's fine, everything's good, and she says she's learned from her mistakes, and she shared everything with me. Didn't really want to know in the end, but uh, she shared everything with me, and she said that she's learned from her mistakes. Mama, don't worry. And then and I said I feel like this is all my fault. I didn't prepare you, and so I mean we had what some people might say a beautiful moment, but it's more of a scary moment for me. And I said, well, I think I just didn't teach you right. And she said, Mama, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I've learned from this. That has nothing to. It's not your fault. You did teach me. So now I worry more because I feel like she just hasn't made great decisions about the young men she's gone out with. So.
This might be a good time to share the daily mood log you filled out just before the workshop began, so it's not in the handouts. But the one where you were thinking about the way you raise your beautiful daughter, and were kind of holding yourself accountable for using, I guess, the wrong parenting style or something of that type. If you'd like to share some of that, I thought that was really interesting and important too, Madeline.
Yeah, and I'll just say, David, just I did want to just share with people the daily mood log that we've been talking about so far. We're just, this moment in time where Madeline was at the hair salon and read about this and some of the anxious thoughts, right, that you shared with us already. That my daughter's not safe. And then the one you just mentioned, that I didn't adequately prepare her innocent soul for the world. So, like, I didn't do enough to prepare her, that she's too naive, that she might be taken advantage of. Um, and that if anything happened to her, I could never forgive myself. Like, I'm completely responsible for her safety. And so I just wanted to make sure people saw those in the handout packet. And then what happened was we had a little bit of an email back and forth with Madeline, not a lot, but a little bit. And then Madeline, you shared in that exchange that part of what comes up for you is that when you worry about your daughter, you also feel just very, very responsible for her. And you sometimes blame yourself if she's struggling with things. You're feeling like it's my fault. And maybe you could just share a little bit more about that you shared with us, and sure, we can definitely share with the audience some of those negative thoughts that you shared with us just via email.
Yes, and if anyone wants to add the new negative thoughts, there's four. You can just add them to if you're working with, say, paper and pencil, if you have printed out the handout, or just take another piece of paper and write them down. I think it's really important to write them down when we're working with negative thoughts.
Well,
But
will you share with us, Madeline? Because it was that, yeah, we were talking with you just a little bit about it this morning. Some of these feelings of shame and guilt and blame, self-blame.
Okay, you're talking about the new ones about the parenting.
Yeah, but I was
yeah,
wondering if you could just talk more open-endedly about that,
Oh,
how it is for you, and then we can go over the
oh,
thoughts. But I just want to connect more with you and have the audience connect more with you and just have you share that with us.
Okay. I don't know where to start. I know when I mentioned David's question to my husband, I said, "Yeah, he had a really good question." He asked me what is it about the relationship? Can you think of anything relationship with your daughter? And then my husband was like, ah. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, our relationship's good. And he said, no, it's not that. It's that you are worried that she is he went straight to she's going to make the same kind of mistakes you made. And that she's not that you don't trust her to be safe. And I've already written that. Yeah, I don't, and especially after this her time in college now, where she's not made great decisions about who she hangs out with. So I just I'm not trusting that she can keep herself safe, which is so not fair of me. I understand that's so not fair of me to be that way. It's like I'm not trusting her to keep herself safe and to make good decisions. And then on layered on top of that is I don't want her to make the same mistakes I made, right? We all have that as parents. Like, we don't want to say. And I was fine. I survived. I made it through, but I wasn't I talked to too many people. I trusted too many people, and that's something that I've always struggled with in my life, is trusting too many people. So
You're
that
saying
is,
you feel like you've been too trustworthy, and maybe are you saying you've been taken advantage of, or you've had your own share of maybe some interpersonal trauma?
I wouldn't say I was. I don't know that I was taken advantage of. I, but I was too trusting of people. So yeah, I mean, there was some incidents where, um, yeah, people stole some of my things and stuff because anyway. But
Right. So there's a fear that she would experience some of these difficult things that you experience.
well, no, worse, because I trusted people. I didn't. I mean, I was fine. I wasn't hurt. No, I was fine. I wasn't hurt or anything like that. But I think I was lucky, and I think
Yeah.
like I tell my husband, I think the world is different now. I mean,
Yeah, the times they are a changing, unfortunately.
yeah, it's not like what's available on the internet. I didn't grow up. We didn't have that. I mean, they were just starting computers when I was young. We didn't have that. They didn't have access to that, all that kind of dark, lurid information that's out there, and the violence that's so readily available to people, and that wasn't there, and I think that shapes a lot of people's brains and minds, and what and how they look at, especially, and I'm talking about in this particular incident, how men look at women, and or girls, or boys look at girls, and it's just so different because of what's available on the World Wide Web, and it's not the same kind of world, and I think it's yeah. That's why I worry more, because I think it's hard to be a kind and trusting person in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hard. Yeah, the world is pretty dark and horrible these days. I sure agree with you on that, Madeline.
And at the same time, we can get lost in that thought, because you've often said, David, we all have our light sides and our dark sides, all of us as humans. And I try to teach my children that most of and this makes me cry too, most of the time people are good. There are a lot of good people out there, and there's a lot of beauty in the world, and we all get so caught up in the darkness and the evil, but I think most of the people are good, and you have to remember that. And sometimes it's hard to remember that. And when you see news like this, it's hard to remember that.
This is really hard for you right now. Just let those tears flow. The you just how do we live with the fact that there's so much evil in the world right now? Kind of a epidemic of it.
and holding that fact with the fact that there's so many people in the world that are good, because it sounds like that also made you feel emotional, almost like the bittersweet, the good and the bad.
I know we got away a little bit from those four thoughts you wrote down earlier. Are we going to ignore them then, or I was
No, I'd
starting to
love
add them to my daily mood log. I thought they were really good.
Yeah, I'd love to have you share them with us, Madeline. Could you share with us um those feelings, those thoughts that you shared with us this morning?
Yeah, I mean, the first one goes back to when she was a baby, and I was not present there enough for her. I mean, yeah, I took a year off to be with her, so I was present. I was very present, but I just remember her as a newborn looking up into my eyes and searching, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, and I was felt so insecure about being a new mother. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. My milk's not coming in for you. I know you must be starving. And her little eyes, those little newborn eyes, just looking at me like searching, searching. And I felt like I was already letting her down because I didn't know what to do. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. I've just never forgotten that. It wasn't the same with my second baby.
Sounds like it's so overwhelming. It's so much responsibility having this precious newborn, and you were feeling so much like such an intense sense of responsibility, right? And
Yeah, just she was just looking into my like deep into my eyes, a little newborn just looking deep, deep into my eyes, and I was like, so sorry. There's nothing here. I don't know what to do. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm trying my best.
so you felt like you were letting her down then. I mean, that was one of the things,
Yeah.
like I wasn't present enough for her. And so you shared that your thought was I wasn't present or there enough for her, which you believe 95%. That's what you told us this morning. And at the same time, you're realizing I took a year off from work and I was trying to breastfeed her. And, it sounds like when things didn't go according to plan, you would feel really guilty and self-blaming.
Yeah, and then the second one, she may not trust I'm there for her, and that I think stems from we had our second child 7 years later, and so I was like, I'd forgotten how to do the baby thing, and in fact, it was kind of a funny story. My husband was filming me trying to put diapers on because I'd forgotten how to put diapers on, and he thought it was the most hysterical thing. Like I couldn't remember how to put a diaper on. And then so I was all on board, focused on this baby, but she was still only 7. She still needed me. And I felt like yeah, that's where that comes from. I maybe wasn't as present with her as I needed to be, when she
And
was
you're
going through.
saying, I just want to make sure I'm getting you right, because all of what you're saying is so beautiful and powerful and important. So like when your second daughter was born 7 years apart, and so when you were tending to your second daughter, the newborn phase, which is so incredibly sort of intensive, right? You felt like you were ignoring your older daughter, or that you weren't present enough. So it felt again sort of like a personal failure. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she looked so big compared to,
Yeah.
looked so big, but she wasn't big.
Yeah. Okay. And so that was another negative thought. She may not trust that I'm there for her. And you told us you believe that 60%.
Hmm.
And again, for the audience, I'm just adding these thoughts to 6, 7, 8 on the daily mood log, which you have on page 5 of your handout packet. And you had a couple more. Will you share that with us, Madeline?
Yeah, she's so anxious and it's all my fault. And I believe that I'm about 75%.
So the thought is she is so anxious and it's all my fault.
And so perfectionistic. Like she's such a people pleaser. So people please. She has to always has to please people. She can't offend anybody. It's like it's more than usual. It
Yeah.
seems to me more than normal. She's really was so worried about offending anyone.
Hmm. Yeah. And you believe that 75%. So she's so
Mhm.
anxious and it's all my fault, or she's such a people pleaser and it's all
Yeah.
my fault, 75%.
Yeah. And that goes back to, was I too hard on her as a parent? Did I, it was too demanding? I expected too much. So now she has to always please me and her dad and her teachers and all people of authority in order to be loved. That whole self-defeating belief thing, you know.
So again, this is blaming yourself for these qualities in her, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
way, it's because I raised her wrong. So I was too demanding. So again, in the theme of kind of just it's all my fault,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so painful and just
Really beating up on yourself ever since she was born. So, kind of the theme. I'm not good enough. I'm failing her as a mother, as a parent.
and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful, Madeline, too, to see just how seriously you've taken this job of parenting her, how important it is to you, and how much you love her, how much you want to protect her and kind of be everything for
Oh,
her.
we tried so hard. It wasn't easy for us. We got married later in life, and it wasn't easy for us to get pregnant. I say us because nobody really knows. It wasn't easy for us to get pregnant, and we went through a lot,
Yeah.
of procedures and time and heartache to have children. So it was really something that we worked at
Yes, this
and
thing.
wanted for years.
Right. And I just wanted to also say, Madeline, that I know that I just know that everything you're sharing so far is something that so many people can relate to. So I'm not looking in the chat box on purpose because I don't want to get distracted. I recommend you don't either, or David doesn't either, but I'm sure, and I know myself, that there's just so many people that can relate to this idea of so deeply loving a child and feeling incredibly responsible, and that leading to some pretty strong self-blame and feeling deep feelings of responsibility. And I just want to say I'm sure many people are feeling very connected to you as you're sharing that, and probably connected to your journey of trying hard to have a child. And so then once you do have a child, David, I think I said not to look in the chat box, and now I can see your eyes often.
Well, I never would look in the chat box except when you told me not to. I
Exactly.
couldn't
I can tell
resist, but there's
you're such a
very
rebel.
powerful,
You're such a rebel.
powerful,
I had to.
You put that
statements.
thought. You put that thought in
I,
his head, Jill.
yeah, I assure you, Madeline, you're touching a lot of hearts right now.
Yeah.
And then what was your fourth thought? I should have been more empathic and
I should have learned to
sensitive.
be more empathic, patient, and sensitive.
Yeah. And then what was the belief in that?
100%.
100%. Yeah.
My
Thank
mother
you.
even said when she was born, now Madeleine, she's French. Now Madeleine, she is very sensitive, so you better be careful. Because she has mentioned before, I might be a little bit like my father, which nobody
Yeah.
wants to hear that.
You were warned by your mom. You better be sensitive, and that you maybe have a tendency, you're saying, to be, I think you used the word in an email to us, gritty, like you really wanted your daughter
Yeah.
to be independent. And so yeah, there's some part of you that's,
And strong.
yeah.
Yeah, and I learned this. I had to learn it too. I don't know that I was born that way. I mean, we all are born with personalities. Maybe I was a little bit, more like my dad, but I had to learn this way because my heart was so broken when my parents divorced, and I just looked up so much to my dad. And then when they divorced, and I found out what was going on, it just broke my heart. And so I had to learn to be gritty. I had to learn to be strong and not to, even though I still continue trusting the wrong people, but but I had to learn to kind of put up a wall to kind of steel myself to not let so much emotion in. I had to learn to do that because it was really hurtful. It hurt so much. And to see what my mom was going through and the hurt she went through over my parents' divorce, and I was only 11 or 12, and it was kind of a forming age, you know. And so I had to learn that. I had to learn to put people at arm's length and to not not open yourself too much to people, especially, guys that I would date later on. You know, I had a tough time committing, and because of that, because I'd be like, nope, I'm going to protect myself from getting hurt. So I feel like I kind of, put up some walls a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. So you're sharing with us that when your parents divorced when you were really pretty young and in those formative years, and that your heart was really broken, that it was really devastating for you. And sounds like there really is a part of you that's very sensitive and open and emotional, all of which, by the way, I think are beautiful qualities, but that maybe left you feeling really, really raw and
Vulnerable.
vulnerable with this divorce. And you're saying you kind of learned, or you taught yourself to kind of put up a wall to protect yourself, to try not to be so open and loving and trusting, and kind of to keep people a little bit at arm's length, as a way to protect yourself from the kind of hurt you felt as a kid. And then there's part of you then that's like, oh, but did I go too far in that direction? Was I too walled with my daughter, not sensitive enough? Right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
am I getting you right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm wondering if it would be a good time to check in with Madeline on our three dimensions. And I'm wondering, Madeline, we like to operationalize things, as you know, to be specific so things can be measured and make the mysterious knowable. That's kind of one of the early goals of cognitive therapy, going all the way back to the 1970s. And I like to think of empathy as having three components. And Jill and I would like you to rate us with a letter grade A, B, C, D in each of those. And the first one would be thought empathy, which would be to what extent are we understanding your thoughts and what you're telling yourself. Number two, to what extent do we understand how you're feeling inside, your emotions? And number three, to what extent have we created an atmosphere of trust, acceptance, and warmth, and that type of thing?
A, triple A.
Okay, and that's beautiful. And as they so often say on TV, Rolaids spells relief. Then tell us why we're getting three A's.
I felt like I felt heard, and you were taking the time, and you weren't rushing me, even though I felt like I needed to rush myself just because I know these things take a while. And so you would push back and you'd ask me for more information, and you would, when you talked to you, empathize with my thoughts, you were accurate, and my feelings as well. And in some cases went advanced empathy, and drew out some more thoughts and feelings that I had. And that's why.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And occasionally I can't help but see some of the chats come onto the screen. I guess some feature of Zoom, and just people are making beautiful comments about you and what you're contributing right here today. I'm wondering, Jill, would this be a time to take our 5-minute break, and then we'll come back after the break, and I don't know if we want to take any questions or maybe hold them until the end
Yes,
of
we
the
should
live
hold questions till the
demonstration.
end for sure. But yes, definitely let's hold any interaction with the audience
Yeah,
till the end.
yeah,
Because we have no idea how much work we have to do
right,
and how long it'll take us. But yeah,
right.
it's nice to take a break, I think, between empathy and resistance, because we like to roll straight from resistance into methods if we can, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, should we do a 5-minute bathroom break now it's
yeah,
30 Pacific time. So
yeah.
we're gonna start rolling again at like 10:35 Pacific time. And then yeah, we'll just get right back into it with you, Madeline.
And people sometimes like us to spell out where we're at, even though it seems obvious to us. And there is in your handout right toward the beginning, a checklist so you can see us going through the team model. But essentially, to keep it very simple, what we've done so far is the T equals testing, and that's been incredibly important, just to see not only through your tears and your openness and your vulnerability, but also in the assessment scales, just the intensity of your negative feelings and your pain and your suffering. And then also the E equals empathy, to form a warm and trusting therapeutic connection without trying to help you in any way. And that's what we said in the talk, that we just want to go with you to the gates of hell and be there with you in your pain. And then once we're doing a good job on that, then we'll go on to what is our goal for today's session, and then how are we going to achieve that goal? So we'll get to that in just about 5 minutes.
I'll also just mention to people that if you're a participant, you won't be able to see the chat box, and that's intentional. We've had lots of feedback in the past that the chat is very distracting for participants. So participants can send messages to the panelists, that's us, but you won't see any chats other than things we send your way. But Mike will share both questions and comments with us as a group at the end of the workshop today. Okay, so 5 minutes, it's 10:32, so let's give people an actual 5 minutes till 10:37, and then we will get rolling again with you, Madeline. So thanks, and sorry for the break, Madeline. We'll pick right back up and get in, but I'm imagining you might want the restroom break too.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good little break there. I know we work hard and give you very little time off here, so thanks for hanging in with us. And so, as David said, Madeline, we've spent some time doing testing and empathy, and now we're going to move a little bit into assessment of resistance, right? David, did you want you tell me, did you want me to get started, or you?
Oh, you can kick it off. You're doing just so awesome today and all the time, Jill.
Thank you. That's very kind. Madeline,
Well, I just had one question for you, Madeline. I'm sorry to interrupt, but then I'll turn it over to you.
no.
How are you feeling about, working with David and Jill in this public forum?
Nervous.
Nervous?
Nervous.
Oh, yeah. And then what are the nervous thoughts?
That I'm going to say, something stupid, that I'm going to say too much, that I'm going to.
I want to write these things down.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say too much. Uh-huh.
That I'm going to say things about my daughter that I don't need to say, that I don't want to further feel guilty about saying things about my family that I don't need to reveal to the world.
Sure.
That's nobody's business but hers. So
Right.
I'd be mindful of that. And that's mainly it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Great. I'll turn it back over to Jill.
Sure. And I did want to say it. I totally respect that, Madeline. sharing something that's really personal about you, and you told us earlier today that you're happy to be open and share openly, and at the same time you love and respect your daughter and don't want to share any of her kind of private business in a way that would be hurtful to her. And I
No.
totally respect that, and yeah, and appreciate that. And so
And I think you've done a brilliant job of balancing those two, Madeline. It's just awesome.
yeah.
Thanks.
And yeah, so in sort of moving us from um, empathy to kind of assessing resistance and getting into methods, first question that I often have is is called the miracle cure question. And so that was what I was thinking of leading with, which is just if a miracle happened today, Madeline, and you got just what you wanted out of this session, what would you be looking for? How would things change for you?
I think the main thing that just jumps to mind without me overthinking it is that, next time I see something in the news again about some young woman getting abducted or kidnapped or raped or murdered, that I'm not going to start to spiral again about my daughters into that dark hole of panic and anxiety and irrational thoughts.
Yeah, right. So you're saying that your miracle cure would be that sometime in the future, if you were to come upon something in the news or a magazine about women being abducted or raped or murdered, that you would not have this kind of anxious, panic, fearful spiral.
Yes.
And then if I'll try, no, you're doing great, Jill.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, and so if we had a magic button,
Yeah, go for it. Go ahead.
yeah. And so if we had a magic button here, can you see it?
I see it.
Yeah. And if you press that, then that will happen instantly. And all of your negative thoughts and tendency to react to trigger events about rape and murder and horrible things happening in the world, especially to young women who are being taken advantage of, that you would no longer react that way, and you wouldn't have those powerful feelings of anxiety and spiraling and so forth. Would you press that button?
It's just so tempting to say yes because it was such an awful place to be in, that dark hole of spiraling anxiety. It was just an awful, awful place. And I couldn't get out of. I couldn't claw myself out of it. And so it's so tempting to say yes. At the same time, I'm not a robot, and I can't not have those. I mean, I guess if you're saying I'd press the magic button, I would not have those feelings, but then I would be a robot, and that would be kind of weird, I think.
Right, absolutely. In fact, why don't we look at some of the positive aspects of your negative thoughts and feelings, not only the panic, but also the guilt, going all the way back to, when your daughter was first born, and feeling that somehow you weren't good enough as a mom, and ask two questions about these negative thoughts and feelings. Number one, how are they helpful to you? And number two, what do they say about you, Madeline, and your core values as a human being that's beautiful, positive, and even awesome? And so we could to make it simple to get started, we could take your anxiety and ask those two questions about your anxiety and panic, and then we can go on to some of these other feelings and the sadness and all of that. But what are some benefits of your anxiety? And also, what do they show about your core values? That's pretty awesome.
And the
And
audience, just so you know, so we're doing positive reframing with Madeline right now. We did the magic button, and you should and can follow along and write this in page 6 of the handout packet. So we're asking you then just to reiterate, we want to think about, we agree with you, Madeline, when you said, I don't know, I'm tempted to say yes, press the button, feel amazing, but I'm realizing like maybe that wouldn't make sense. And maybe there are some good reasons to feel kind of anxious and worried and even panicky. So then we're saying we agree with you. So let's think about what they are. So David asked you to think anxious, panicky, worried, nervous. How does that show something really kind of beautiful and awesome about you? And how is it maybe working for you, beneficial to you?
And as an aside, if see, this is the page in the handout this is the positive reframing tool or table. And if you don't have access to that to write and keep up with us as we're doing, maybe you only have it electronically and can't easily type in it, just take a piece of paper and draw a line near the left edge, and then anxiety, put ANX as the first emotion, and then on the right hand column, we'll write the answers. What are some advantages, and also how does this reflect my core values? So we'll give you first shot at that, Madeline.
Well, definitely an advantage is that it keeps me vigilant as a parent.
Yeah.
Going
And
on with my kids. What is she doing? Where is she? Maybe too much.
yeah.
And then does it show about, my core values that family is really important, that being a good example for the next generation is important to me, and um,
Mm.
Awesome.
raising strong women is important to me.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I love that. Family's important, and raising strong women, uh,
And
strong
even you
daughters.
said setting an example, because I heard you say that too, almost like breaking the chain, wanting to be this kind of person and show my daughters how to be this particular type of person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And oh, so that's a third benefit of it,
Yeah.
being a role model for my children, for my
Exactly.
daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll add that. Are you writing this down, Madeline?
No, I was busy chatting away.
Yeah, so the first is keeps me vigilant, shows that family and raising strong women is important, and also that I'm a role model uh, for my daughters, and conceivably other young women as well, and maybe mothers as well. Can you think of any other positives, Jill, in the anxiety?
Well, I guess I wonder, we said it keeps me vigilant, but just to flesh that out a bit, that it protects myself, and my daughters from danger.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll add that protects
Mhm.
self and daughters, uh, daughters, from danger. And the proof of that is that, my daughter and I have already talked about this and issues of safety and so forth. So it's certainly not being neglected. But what's another emotion you'd like to focus on like this, Madeline? You've got a lot of them on the daily mood log.
Yeah. Um, Probably.
Can we do inadequate?
Yeah, I didn't want to do that, but
Let's do that.
speaking to me.
Oh, yeah, that's been there, since the birth of your daughters, and
Yeah.
probably going back even much earlier than that. Uh, uh,
Okay.
So what is the inadequacy? How is that helpful and an advantage for you? And secondly, what does it show about you and your core values that's positive and awesome?
Okay, so what it helps me to strive to be adequate.
Okay.
It's helps me to keep learning and growing.
Yeah. Is that real?
Yes, and
Is that
important.
important?
Yes,
Is that powerful?
yes, and
Yeah.
very big value of mine. Yes, to keep learning and growing and getting better. Yeah.
Okay, so that's awesome. That's one. What are some other really cool things about inadequacy?
Um, it kind of shines the light on I guess so my mistakes and what I need to improve on. It's kind of the same thing, I guess, learning and striving.
Yeah, just show honesty about mistakes.
Yeah, shows that I'm realistic and being honest with myself
Yeah,
and authentic. That's important.
yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, is that powerful?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Is
powerful.
that real?
That's real. Hmm.
Okay, that's awesome. What are some other cool things about inadequacy?
It um, well, it goes to my core value of lifelong learning.
Oh
Growth,
yeah,
learning,
okay, yeah, uh-huh.
personal growth, and learning. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 uh-huh. And any other huge positives you can see there in inadequacy? Because I can
Shows
think of
that,
some huge ones.
shows that I'm fallible. That I'm fallible.
Oh, okay.
I
Put that. Is that
mess up.
important?
That
Is that important?
yeah, it's important. It's important.
Okay. Put that down. Uh, I'm fallible. Does it also show humility?
Yeah, yeah, definitely
Is that
shows
important too?
humility. Yes, that's very important.
So it shows that I'm humble.
Uh-huh.
I wonder also if it shows um, just how much you care. Like it shows
Mhm.
your love of your daughters, right? When we feel like we're failing someone that we love
Mhm.
and feel kind of inadequate, to me, it just shows how much you value that relationship, that person.
Mhm.
Is
That's cool. That's almost like a magical one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the love of your daughters is almost like a spiritually beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Nice.
What about, I also had the thought it shows that you're responsible. I was looking at your negative thoughts, like when you tell yourself I was too demanding, or when you tell yourself it's all my fault, these thoughts. These show just how responsible you are, like just
Mhm. Like accountable.
accountable. Oh, sorry. Yes,
Mhm.
accountable.
No,
Responsible and
responsible
accountable.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, accountable, responsible.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
And then I take this, being a parent very, very, very seriously.
Is
Yeah.
that true?
Yes.
Is- Does that bring you to tears?
Because it's the most important thing I think I could do in life. It was just so hard to have children, and then when we had them, it was like I need to be really on it. I need to do this right because it was so hard to become a parent, and I'm just so grateful.
Wow.
I
So,
just never
Mm.
imagined the amount of love I could feel. I think,
Yeah,
mm,
that's the
and just
gratitude that you have of
responsibility.
being a parent. How beautiful is that? Because it was so hard to make it happen,
Yeah,
right?
it was really hard.
I have the chills having you share that, just knowing, how hard the journey was and just how grateful you feel to have these children and then how seriously you take your role as a mom, right? Just again shows how important these girls are to you, shows how accountable you are. Yeah, just how much you value being a parent. and a great
Yeah.
one, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Someone just wrote, and we're not supposed to reveal these, but I something like I haven't been successful in having a baby, with a lot of sad faces after it.
Yeah, that's so hard. I,
Yeah.
I was there for many years. Yeah. it's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
What are some other negative feelings that we could look at some of the positives? Let me look at the daily mood log and see what they are. There's some
Maybe
Sad.
sadness and frustration and upset.
um
What's beautiful about the sadness?
um that I care about all these. I care about the world. I care about humanity. I care about, people being kind to one another. And it makes me so
Yeah.
sad when I hear these things.
Is that real? Is that powerful?
Yeah.
Is that important?
Yeah. I can't change it,
Uh-huh.
but it's important.
So that's one huge positive in your sadness. What are some others?
That it shows that I care about the world, right? That's what we wrote down. Yeah.
What else does it
What else
show?
does your sadness show when you read about
Um,
terrible things happening to women?
I have a
I,
suggestion if you need.
I don't know. It's just I just don't understand. I don't understand. It sometimes feels hopeless. I just don't understand. Um,
Well, that's another point we could look at. But just looking at the sadness, is your sadness, is that an expression of your love for your daughters? If you
uh,
press the magic button, the sadness goes away.
yeah, but I think it was a sadness was around reading those news articles and just and sadness thinking that they're in danger. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's the love for my daughters. And maybe my love for the planet, for all humans, and so much suffering that's going on.
Yeah.
Would that be true?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
We'll add that love for the planet.
Mm-hmm. And shows that I'm realistic, right? That I'm
Yes.
open to what's actually happening in the world. I'm not an ostrich sticking my head in the sand, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm realistic. Some terrible things happen, right? And I'm present. Yeah. Is that true? That you're kind of realistic and
Yes.
present to some of the atrocities of the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
and then how about frustration? That's another high one.
Yeah.
What are some wonderful things about being frustrated?
Um, the it makes me motivates me to take action,
Oh
to
yeah. Uh-huh. Yes.
go
I
out
love.
there and advocate for
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
be an activist in the community
Yeah.
for
Activist for change.
safety, for change,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah, I love that. And because the frustration means that you haven't given up and that you're
Yeah.
continuing to pursue a goal that's somewhat elusive.
Yeah. It motivates me to not give up,
Yeah,
Hmm.
not give up, I guess, hope or, continue kind of fighting, really fighting
yeah,
for justice and,
yeah. It shows that, I'm fighting for justice. So I've got three for frustration.
Yep.
Uh, Anything else either of you can think of for other things we should do positive reframing on? There's a general one just called upset, which is kind of like angry, I think. It's in the angry category.
Mhm.
The upset. What is there
Well,
any?
anger is a very, it's a very big category for me in general.
Mm,
My husband makes fun of me, when he met me, just
yeah.
angry girl, angry white girl, he'd say.
Oh yeah. And then
Yeah.
what are some positive things about your anger,
Um,
white girl?
that's stupid, but it's true. But um, sometimes that's not good. Sometimes it's just too much. I don't need to be angry a lot. I need to instead take action. And so sometimes that one bothers me. But in this case, it was about being upset about the terrible things that happened to these young women.
And what does that anger show about you that's really kind of beautiful and awesome?
That I want things to be just and fair and people to get to love each other.
Yeah.
It sounds so idealistic, but that's what it is.
Right.
So unrealistic, but my anger shows that I'm being realistic, that those things are happening and it's not good.
Oh yeah. It shows that I'm realistic and idealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because it's the discrepancy between what I want and what I see
Right.
happening that makes me
Yeah.
really angry, right? So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
totally holding both of those values at the same time. I'm realistic and I'm idealistic, and I want the world to be better. I want my daughter to be better. I want myself to be better when you're, angry in each of these ways. Kind of
Yeah.
shows your high standards too, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
for the world, for your daughter, for yourself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So let's add high standards. Is that true, Madeline? To the right
yeah. But
column?
it's kind of not fair, but it's not fair in the way that it having high standards for the world, for yourself, for your kids. It just puts a lot of pressure on the system, on everything,
Yeah.
and it's kind of not very fair. But
But there's some value in there, right?
yeah, just always striving to learn and be better, and try to meet that ideal. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, should we
Yeah.
do go on to the pivot question, Jill?
Yeah.
You're a master of the pivot question.
Sure. Well, Madeline, I'm so glad that we have had a chance to really think through with you the way that all of these negative emotions and negative and anxious thoughts are showing such beautiful things about you. And just, to mention a few in summary, your anxiety, keeps you vigilant and protects yourself and your daughters, and feelings of inadequacy and telling yourself you're not good enough just shows how much you care, and kind of motivates you to always learn and grow and to be humble. And we can see that your sadness shows how much you care about the world and your daughters, and your frustration gets you to be kind of an activist for change, and your anger shows you have high standards and want things to be different. And So there's so many ways in which your negative thoughts and feelings show such beautiful things about you and also actually are beneficial or kind of advantageous. And so given all of that, why would you want to change? Why would you want to push that button and have all these thoughts and feelings disappear?
Yes, I love that question because I would not want them all to disappear. I'd want to keep the good stuff and get rid of the bad.
Right. So
Yeah.
you want to hang on to, some level of anxiety or inadequacy or sadness, like kind of just enough to hang on to some of these beautiful qualities and benefits, but kind of reduce them some to reduce your suffering. Is that accurate? Are they too high or are they just right?
Yeah, they're too high.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what you'd might like to lower them to today. The sadness is 85%, or was that night for sure. How sad would you want to be feeling today between 0 and 100? What would be enough sadness to keep all those positive qualities of your sadness, but to reduce your suffering? How much sadness do you need? Because
And
there's a
showing
lot of bad in the world.
just showing people this is on the daily mood log in the goal column here.
Yeah, on page
Write down.
4. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You're showing it perfectly,
Yep.
Jill. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So 40 or 50, I guess. 50.
You want to? I'll put 40 to 50 in the goal column,
Okay.
and then how anxious do you want to feel today?
Um, um, yeah, like 40.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then how inadequate do you want to feel?
50.
50. Okay. And how frustrated do you want to feel?
Um, 20.
Oh, okay. And how upset and angry do you want to feel?
Mm, 30. Maybe 25.
25. Okay, okay. So you want to bring those two down a good bit, but you wanted to keep the sadness, the anxiety, and the inadequacy at fairly high levels.
Yeah. Let's say the upset, anger, 30.
Upset is 25, and anger would be 30. Is
Oh,
that
no, I
right?
didn't circle angry there. I just circled upset. So,
Upset, yeah. So the anger would be 30, right?
okay. Yeah.
So the anger would be 30, and the
Yes.
upset would be 25. Okay.
Well, it's all the
And
same column. So.
yeah,
Yes.
sure. I know. The same row. And
Yeah.
and so are you satisfied with these numbers, Jill?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, Madeline, it sounds like that, yeah, you're seeing a lot of benefit to being, worried and anxious. And that I think it means we did a beautiful job of positive reframing, right? And that Madeline is definitely feeling like, it makes sense to feel moderately sad and moderately anxious and moderately inadequate. And is that a fair summary, Madeline?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
you're feeling like these emotions need to be kind of moderately high in order to kind of motivate you and in order to keep you and your daughter safe and kind of keep you on the path.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a little high. Yeah.
Why would you want them to be lower? I wonder if I didn't hear that in response to the pivot question. What are they costing you? Why, if they were too high, why would you want them to be dialed down a bit? Why would that be important to you to feel less anxious or maybe less inadequate?
Yeah, I like that. What are they costing you? Yeah, I don't need any more sleepless nights. I don't need to be like constantly going back over these thoughts in my head over and over again, thinking about these missing women. And I just can't, it just doesn't bring me my best self, doesn't bring the world my best self. And I'm constantly going over these thoughts in my head over and over again.
Hmm.
Well, what would be if we could dial it down to lower levels? Would you want to dial them down further?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what would be a good level of sadness for you to be feeling today at the end of the
Okay. So let's,
demonstration?
let's do that 30.
30, okay. I'll
Yeah.
cross out the 40 to 50 and I'll put a 30 there. That's good. And how anxious, worried, panicky, nervous, and frightened do you want to feel?
You know what? No, this is the problem one. This is a problem one because I define myself so much by this, I think. Um,
Yeah, we don't want to dial it down too far because you don't
yeah,
want to let go of this part of you that feels really central to who you are.
yeah,
But at the same time, you're also arguing for, I don't want any sleepless nights. This sucks, I'm tortured by it too. So that's hard. That's a struggle.
yeah. But
What would be just, how much anxiety do you think you need to hold on to in order to still, let's say, protect yourself and your daughters and
all right, maybe 35.
okay.
A little
Okay.
bit.
35. We don't want to give away too much of it.
Right.
And then how about inadequate at 50?
Yeah, how much do you need to beat yourself up in order to be
Yeah, I don't need to beat myself up that much. Yeah, maybe 30 as well. Let's take that to.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So
A little bit
we've
more
got
reasonable.
30 for sadness is the goal, 35 for anxiety, 30 for inadequacy, 20 for frustration, and 25 to 30 for upset and anger.
Yeah.
And so I think we're ready now to see if we can challenge some of these negative thoughts and lower these down. That will be our first strategy. We have quite a number of strategies, to be honest with you, Madeline. But which thought would you like to work on first? You've got your first five, like my daughter is not safe and so forth. And then the ones seventh, that's one through five, and then six, seven, eight, and nine is, I wasn't present enough for her. She may not trust me that I'm there for her. It's kind of my fault that she's feeling some pressure and some anxiety in her life as well. So which thought would you want to focus on first?
Um, um, the first one. It's fine. First one. They're all
My daughter's not safe, and then a very simple way to get started on a negative thought, or what are the distortions in that thought?
well, I'm definitely magnifying that. So that would be
Yep,
magnification for sure. Uh,
right.
and then it is definitely all or nothing thinking.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Also, I'm definitely looking at it through a lens here, the mental filter.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I'm discounting the positive for sure.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Right.
And then fortune telling,
Yes, right. I've got that one too.
and then probably emotional reasoning too, since
I've
it's
got that
all
one
prompted.
too. Yeah,
Okay.
we're on the same page. Those are all the ones that I had. They're exactly the same as yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, take one of those distortions. They're all good, and explain to Jill and David a little bit about the distortion you're choosing. You can do this with all of them, but one at a time and see how much juice we can get out of it. Which distortion would you like to discuss first? Then we have a few questions to ask you about the distortion, like why does that distortion actually distort the validity of this thought? And secondly, why is that distortion being very unfair to Madeline?
So first, just pick one of the distortions: magnification, all or nothing, emotional reasoning. What are the ones that you selected? Mental filter, or discounting the positive, fortune telling?
Yeah, well, we'll just start with the first one I have written down, magnification.
Magnification. So tell us why that thought is magnification, and why that magnification is a bit of a distortion.
Well, because I'm magnifying things. She is safe as far as I know.
And do you have your mood log in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Would you write in the right-hand column, she is safe? And
Okay.
you were continuing to talk, but I just want to grab that one before it disappears.
Yeah, she is safe. And well, she's far away. I mean, it doesn't matter where she is, really. I'm not there with her, keeping her safe. She's not necessarily surrounded by creeps and sociopaths at all moments of her day.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's why it's magnification. It's mental filter, because I read these news articles, and it's been going on ever since the whole Natalie Holloway story that I obsessed over for a long time. And so I got that filter that I know is there. And then
And why does that distort the validity of this thought, the mental filtering? Why does that make this thought misleading or untrue?
well, because the mental filter, why does it make it? Because it's just I'm not seeing all the I'm not seeing that she's safe right now, and that she's not always being surrounded by creeps and sociopaths. I'm just seeing these news articles that are going to be, of course, they're designed to be inflammatory, but so it's just not true.
Just put that in the right-hand column, in the positive thought column. I'm only seeing news stories. So this is not true. Write that down. So before we go on, let me ask you that's why. Let's see how true these statements are. You just wrote down, I think, 4 things in the positive thought column, or 3. The first was, she is safe. How much do you believe that, between 0 and 100?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look on Find My Friends
I don't know what that is.
to see where she is, see if I think she's safe.
So she's saying, like, she doesn't actually believe it just in the abstract. She'd have to know where she was and what she was doing to figure out whether or not her daughter is safe.
Find My Friends is you can locate a person where they are geographically.
Oh, I see. Okay, that sounds like a nice app to have. But how much do you believe right now that she's safe?
100%,
Okay, put 100 next to that.
I think, or maybe 95, because I don't really know. But
You can put 95 to 100. That's perfect. She's not surrounded by creeps. How much do you believe that?
well, I mean, I don't know. She might be.
Yeah. She might have met Putin, for example.
I was thinking that, David, maybe these positive thoughts do need to be modified a bit, though. I'm actually hearing Madeline saying she doesn't totally believe them. And so my opinion is I'll never know 100% in any moment that my daughter is safe. I would never know that she's not surrounded by creeps. I feel like we need a bit of a
It's
qualifier.
highly unlikely that she's
Right.
surrounded by
That's what I'm
sociopaths and creeps.
I
You
think it
just
needs to be
edit
something.
it like that.
No,
And
I mean,
then tell us how
yeah,
much you believe it.
exactly. So you could say she is likely safe, right? The likelihood is my daughter is safe. The likelihood is she's not surrounded by creeps. The truth
Yeah,
is that news stories are
yeah,
rare and unusual and not generally, a part of our normal existence or something like that, right? I just think
right.
it's really
Yeah,
important that we come up with thoughts that are not BS thoughts where you're not
yeah.
really believing
Right.
them, but thoughts that you really.
Beautiful teaching point, Jill.
Yeah.
So, preferencing these things by it's not likely that she's unsafe. It's not likely that she's surrounded by creeps. And how much do you believe those statements now?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's
And
not.
then when you're saying I'm only seeing news stories, how much do you believe that?
What do you mean?
Well, that was what you said.
Yeah, there's
For
news
mental
stories
filter,
that,
I'm being biased by news stories of
Yeah.
unusual events and horrible
yeah,
events.
they're not, they're not, I hope they're not everyday events.
Right.
That they're not, that they're rare, what Jill said, that they're not, it's not, yeah, it's rare, it's rare.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but by
I mean,
news
getting less
stories,
rare, but
And
yeah.
maybe even there is a better positive thought in there, just like it's highly unlikely. Things that I'm
yeah,
reading about are highly unlikely occurrences, like terrible and
yeah,
awful, but highly unlikely.
yeah, that's more realistic.
Yeah. And how much do you believe that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And and uh, and then so this is not true. I think so. This thought is not entirely true. How much do you believe that?
Are you asking how much does she believe the original negative thought? I wasn't sure what you were.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
you're asking how much do you believe the thought my daughter is not safe being far away and surrounded by creeps and sociopaths?
Well, when I toggle back in my mind to she's likely safe, that these are highly unlikely occurrences, these news story, these things, these horrible things do happen, but they're not, it's highly unlikely that it's happening right now to my daughter.
Okay. So that's all 100%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And now the second question I want to ask you, and this is what the second question you always do and explain the distortions. Why are these distortions unfair to Madeline? We've said, why they're not true, uh, but why are they also unfair to Madeline?
Um, because it's just causing unnecessary uh, bad feelings, worry and bad feelings.
Yeah. And can you add that to the positive thought side too? It causes unnecessary, uh,
Inflammatory.
unnecessary and inflammatory, sad feelings. And how much do you believe that?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Okay. And and now how much do you believe your negative thought? My daughter is not safe. She's far away and surrounded by creeps and sociopaths.
That's probably not true.
Okay, so what would you say now, how true it is?
Um, it's funny because I can't say zero because then I would feel like I wouldn't be
Yeah,
vigilant
you don't want to be
or
unrealistic
realistic
here.
or
Yeah,
You
right.
use your best brain here.
yeah. So but I don't I believe more that it's unlikely. So um yeah, I mean it's less than half, you know.
So you right now believe 40% that she's surrounded by creeps and sociopaths as we speak?
No, I guess not. 40% seems like a lot. So maybe 20%. Yeah, if you put it that way.
So is your belief in that negative thought gone down to 20% right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so put 20% in the percent after column. So that's a great start. Where do you want to go now, Jill? Do you want to jump into a double standard?
Sure, we could do a double standard and maybe double standard and then externalization of voices.
Yeah, uh-huh. Well, why don't you lead the charge here through the forest with
Sure.
start with the double standard and and then if Madeline is still courageous and strong, we'll jump into the extreme externalization of voices.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? Why you decided to go straight into methods on this one thought instead of continuing with identifying the distortions in the other thoughts?
Well, we could actually. Generally, when somebody kind of gets a bit of a breakthrough, they've learned something, and
Yeah.
then you can accelerate the process very rapidly because we're teaching in a public forum. If we were leisurely seeing someone for an hour a week for many weeks, we might want to use that same technique with two or three other thoughts. In part, I'd say we have an embarrassment of riches.
Mhm.
We have, I mean, even from what we're telling you here, we have tons of other methods we haven't even mentioned to you yet. But you did beautifully on that. So I think your brain is probably going to be able to move really quickly.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I was gonna say, yeah, we could try the double standard on this method, although I also like the double standard for a lot of these other like self-blaming thoughts. But that I wasn't present for her and that kind
Yeah,
of
let's use it for one of those. Yeah,
not good enough.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. But it sounds like this is the thought Madeline really wanted our help with. The my daughter's not safe. Um, yeah, I'm not sure which direction. Like, but I feel kind of tempted to work on one of those thoughts.
Yeah, let's do that. Follow your hunch there. I was not present enough for her. She may not trust that I'll be there for her in the future. It's my fault that she's struggling with anxiety and of her own.
Well, what do you? I don't want to. I don't want to move in a different. Madeline, I guess I would ask you. Did you want to try the double standard on this first thought? This my daughter's not safe.
I'm
And
open to whatever. I'm sorry, I'm much help here. I'm open to whatever you all want to do.
you could try the double standard on that, and then probably externalization of voices will be more effective for that thought. And then maybe we could go to double standard on some of these self-blame thoughts.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
that's good because I like what David said about how, if it seems like you've had some new learning around
Yeah,
the
exactly.
thought that I was really stuck on in my
Yeah,
head.
we should capitalize on your learning.
Yeah, and to just
agree.
drive a truck through that.
Okay. So let's just say we're going to try the double standard technique, and then I think we'll hopefully move to externalization of voices for this one. Then we can try the other double standard on some of the others. So
Or if you want to just go EOV on this one.
Yeah, let's just go EOV.
That's what I
your
think,
hunch
too.
and my hunch and
Okay.
Madeline's hunch.
I agree. That's what my hunch was too. So we'll see the double standard for the kind of self-blame thoughts. That's always
Yeah.
my preference.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try the externalization of voices technique. I'll get started, David, but I'm very happy for you to jump in, right? So
Yeah.
with
Or
this,
you can even start with that, my daughter's not safe, and then jump into the guilt thoughts.
okay. So yeah, so we're gonna excuse me, we're gonna do the externalization of voices method with you, Madeline. And so just for the audience to know, this is a method where we're going to play different parts of you, Madeline. So I'm going to have you play the role. I'm going to play the role of your negative thought, and I'm going to kind of hit you with that negative thought in the first person, or in the second person, you telling you what your negative thought is. And I'm going to have you respond in the first person I, and you're going to be the positive Madeline. So I'm going to be kind of negative Madeline, and you're going to be positive Madeline.
Okay.
You willing to give that a try?
Yes.
Okay. And do you want me to say anything more, David, in setting it up? Or
No, that's fine. Just jump right in,
okay.
ladies, and
Okay,
show us your swimming stuff.
Okay. So yeah, Madeline, you read that article about some terrible things happening to other women, and your daughter is not safe. She's far away and she's surrounded by creeps and sociopaths.
Okay. So I'm supposed to be positive here.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm going to defeat you on that one. Okay. Well, while it's true, Jill, negative Madeline, while it's true, negative Madeline, that she may be surrounded by creeps and sociopaths, because a lot of people have those characteristics in the world, unfortunately, then it's probably not likely. It's probably not likely. She's studying at a university and abroad. That's a difficult program, and it's just probably not likely. These are rare occurrences. I mean, these don't happen every day to people. I know it wasn't great. Okay.
Who won that, Madeline? Was that I was the negative Madeline or the positive Madeline?
Yeah, I think maybe the positive Madeline won small.
Yeah.
Let's try a role
Very
reversal.
convincing. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, as a teaching point, this is why we do externalization of voices. We're looking for change at the gut level, not a temporary intellectual whatever. We're not going to settle for half a loaf of bread.
Okay.
So you be the negative and Jill will be the positive.
All right. So, positive Madeline, I just, you're getting close on that last one, but I just want to tell you that your daughter's not safe. She's surrounded by creeps and sociopaths. And she's so far away, surrounded by all these creeps and sociopaths.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say that's a really unhelpful thing to tell myself. We made the decision that my daughter could go abroad. She's at a really safe program, or I should say, like a good, high level academic program. So we certainly weighed the options and felt like this was a great choice for her. And is the world unsafe? Absolutely. Do terrible things occasionally happen? Yes. And at the same time, on the whole, I believe that my daughter is safe. And the problem that I'm struggling with is not that my daughter is unsafe right now. It's just listening to this garbage that I keep running over in my head. And I'm not going to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say you won huge.
How? How did she win huge?
Because I need to stop telling myself these horrible things.
Yeah, that's called the counterattack technique. To raise the conscious awareness that the real problem, and this might be a leap to grasp it initially, is not that your daughter's in danger. That's a small remote problem, but we have another huge problem, right, Madeline?
Yeah.
And that's that you're hitting me with a lot of garbage and making my life miserable. You're the sociopath at the moment, my dear.
Wow.
Do you like that?
That's harsh. Great. Another thing to beat myself up over.
Oh, no.
You're really a sociopath.
Slightly overstated, but
So
maybe.
I
Right.
love your
The
I love
person
your
who's doing the
laughter,
damage.
Madeline.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's nice. It's nice to see your laughter and joy coming back. So let's you guys can try it again.
Okay, so let's do a role reversal again. Okay, I'm going to be the negative again, and you're going to try and, if you liked what I said, if that felt huge to you, you're going to try and channel that, right? Make it your own. Okay, so but remember, Madeline, your daughter is not safe. She's far away from you, and she's out there in the world surrounded by creeps and sociopaths, and you know it.
Yes, and it's easy for me to get sucked into your BS because I hear this a lot from you, and it's very easy for me to get sucked right back into that. But the reality is there is danger in the world that's not going to go away. It's part of the world, it's part of humanity. There's light, there's dark, there's danger, there's safety. And she is in a good program. She's in a program there are people on site, they get together, they do activities together. She's made friends. And just because there are creeps and sociopaths around her doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily target her. So I just need to stop listening to you because it's just not realistic. It's unlikely. And it's,
Cruel.
yeah, it's not fair to keep saying that. It's not helpful. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to me to keep listening to you. It's not helpful. I can't be a good, I can't stand up and be there for her if I'm constantly thinking these dark thoughts.
Mm.
So I need to stop listening to you. Yeah, I need to stop listening to you and just know that yes, it's out there in the world and things could happen, but they're not right now, and she's fine. And most of the time people are fine. Depending on where you are. Sorry. Because I mean, a lot of people are not fine today.
And so who
Sorry.
I'm chuckling with you because you sort of like you got it and then you sort of like had a little bit of a tail end there where you were like those little thoughts came back up again.
Well, because I don't want to be unrealistic and insensitive
Exactly.
to
I think
the current political climate around the world.
right. I think actually where you veer off course, Madeline, is when you try to be overly positive. So basically overgeneralization in either direction is not
Yeah.
helpful. So when you overgeneralize and say because the world is safe or because she's fine, like maybe you don't need to say that.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you start to then doubt and get into that. When you try to convince yourself 100% that everything is perfect, then you don't believe it. And then you
No,
doubt
then
it.
it just
So,
goes right back to, badness. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
let me see if I can, Madeline, what I heard you say that sounded really powerful is you said it's easy to get sucked into this BS. But the reality is there danger? Yes, but she's in a good program. She's got good friends. Just because there's creeps and sociopaths in the world doesn't mean that she's actually in danger. And I don't want to listen to this, garbage. It's unlikely and it's cruel and it's not helpful to me.
Yeah.
And then where you got into trouble is where you tried to tell yourself, and she's fine, and because then you start doubting that again.
Yeah.
So could we try it one more time and see if you can just hang on to that sort of, self-defense, counterattack, acceptance of the reality without trying to go too far in that direction?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So
So,
Madeline, I'm just going to prompt you. Your daughter is not safe being far away and surrounded by creeps and sociopaths.
okay. So she's far away. She might be surrounded by creeps and sociopaths, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's being targeted. And while the reality is that the world's not a safe place, she's in a good program and she's made good friends. So I need to stop listening to your BS because it's just skewed it's all skewed to one side, and it's not reality. So I need to just remember she's in a good program and that and she's not necessarily the target of every creep and sociopath. And, you know, I think she's got a good radar, really. Sometimes I think sometimes she does.
And who won that, Madeline, you or me?
Yeah, no, I won. That was huge because I feel like I believe it. Yeah.
How did you get to huge?
But just remembering she's in a good program, and that, you know, there'll always be creeps and sociopaths around, but doesn't mean that, you know, that your loved one is the target of that creep and sociopath, and that she can defend herself.
Okay. You want to go on to another thought with David?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know you defeated that, negative Madeline over there, but you're not going to defeat this one. And what I want you to know is that you did not adequately prepare her innocent soul for the world.
Hmm.
And teaching point, I'm just reading the second thought on the daily mood log and putting it into the second person you.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Negative Madeline. I don't think that I did prepare her. I did everything I could. I tried to toughen her up a little bit, and not always tell her that I never told her I was proud of her, because now maybe I sort of regret that. Although as soon as I told you all that, then I sent her a text telling her that I wanted her to know that we were really proud of what she was doing. So that felt good. But I, yeah, anyway, back on track here. Yeah, I guess I did my best. I don't, you know, I don't know how much more I could have done. I tried to make her tough. I tried to make her get into sports, be athletic, tried to teach her boundaries, to stand up for herself, which she did many times. I don't know how much more I could have done to prepare her. It's really up to her and her personality and her disposition.
Hey, who won?
I think I won.
Big or small?
Yeah, big,
Big or huge?
big, between big and huge.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get it up another half a notch. You
Okay.
try to attack me. Then if I
Okay.
can't do it, we'll get the expert in and let Jill demonstrate. But give the old fart a shot at it.
Okay. Um, Listen, Madeline, you did not adequately prepare her innocent soul for this world.
Wow, what an amazing statement is that? As the Buddha often called it, gee, we just came across another pile of bullshit. But let me see if I can respond to that. I was and continue to be a damn loving mother, and she's really lucky to have me, and I feel gratitude to have her and my other daughter too. What a blessing that is. And as far as being a perfect parent or something, I'm not into grading parents, but I think if I had to grade another mother who was like me, I'd give her a pretty damn high grade. But that's not my failure and my weakness. I do have a tremendous failure, however.
What's that?
Listening to your BS.
Yeah, that's right. You see, the sociopath is with us here today. What does a sociopath do?
Oh my goodness.
A sociopath wants to hurt people, right?
Oh my goodness. This is harsh.
Yeah, and you're trying to hurt me,
It's
and I'm
masochistic.
not
The
going to let you do
masochist.
that. Who won?
Yeah, you did. Huge.
Yeah, and how did I do that?
Yeah, and I mean, and the way you're saying it, it almost makes it sound like I'm just narcissistic. It's even even worse. It's getting worse.
No, I didn't say narcissistic. I said sociopathic. That's worse than
Yeah,
narcissistic.
but just like, it's all on me, and
Yeah,
it's
right.
not.
Taking responsibility for other people, I don't think that is narcissistic, and I think it's self-critical and self-blaming, and that's what David is highlighting. I just want to be clear, and language is funny.
That's right.
It's
Yeah,
important
that's right,
that you see
Jill.
the difference. No one I could ever walk away from this thinking you're narcissistic. I think it's that you're taking an unneeded amount of responsibility.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Blaming.
And I think the counterattack is a powerful tool to use in whatever style you want. But I think it's crucial to point out that the problem in your life isn't your daughter's safety. The problem is your safety. And you're not safe in the presence of this belittling voice in your head that's very mean and relentless.
Yeah.
And that's your only problem. That's what we're trying to obliterate today. To give Madeline a life of freedom and safety and joy and pride. Now let's see if you can do it. Could I talk to you for a minute?
Yeah.
I know that snake in the grass Burns was trying to persuade you that everything's okay, or some kind of baloney he was using. But I don't want you to forget that you did not prepare her innocent soul for this world. So you're to blame, and don't you forget it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, and I definitely take a lot of responsibility for some parenting mistakes. A lot of parenting mistakes I've made, still making. At the same time, I think you're wrong. I think I really did my best to prepare her without making her, I did make her anxious, without making her overly paranoid about everybody, so that she could make friends and enjoy life and see the beauty in life that surrounds us. So it's just not, it's not true. And she can stand up for herself. She's an adult now. She's learned. So I need to stop saying that that's all my fault.
Okay, who won that one?
Yeah, I won that one.
Big or small?
Yeah, I won huge.
Huge. How did you get to huge?
Saying that it's ridiculous to say that that I didn't prepare her. I did my best. I wasn't
Yeah, I did my best, and my best is pretty darn awesome.
I wouldn't go that far, but I did my best, and we did teach her. We did teach her, and it's up to her now. And I need to stop. It's not helpful to beat myself up and listen to that, because it's just not true.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Your turn, Jill. And then we'll have to wrap up and go into our, after and stuff.
Well, I would like to do the double standard technique with Madeline on some of her some of her self-critical thoughts. Could I do that, Madeline?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let me set that up, and then I'll just pick some of these self-critical thoughts. So Madeline, in this role play, the double standard technique, I'm going to play a dear friend of yours. But rather than thinking of me as an actual friend that I'm going to be a friend / clone of yours. So think of me as someone that you care about, that you love, like a dear friend, but I'm actually kind of a clone of yours. I'm just like you. I grew up in the same family that you grew up in. I'm married to the same guy. I'm struggling with the same issues with, my daughters, and telling myself the same kinds of things that you've been telling yourself. And I'm going to have a conversation with you. And the nice thing is you just get to be yourself. So you're Madeline, and I'm dear friend / clone of Madeline. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So Madeline, I wanted to talk to you for a minute. I'm going to share with you just a little bit about myself, and then tell you what I've been struggling with. My husband and I worked tried really, really hard to have our daughters, and we struggled a lot with fertility. And when we finally had them, we were so kind of overjoyed and grateful. And partly as a result, I just take parenting so seriously. It's so important to me. I love my daughters so much. And, I've been telling myself that I wasn't present or there enough for my daughter when she was a little girl. I had her sister and they were 7 years apart, and I, was parenting my second one, and I don't think I did everything exactly right, and didn't gaze into her eyes enough times, and wasn't there as much. And so I keep telling myself I wasn't present and there enough for her, and that's really awful. Do you think that's true?
Well, as my dear friend and clone, I do know that you were there and you took it so seriously to be a good parent and to be there for her, for your daughter, and hold her and take her to all those doctor's appointments to get weighed in the beginning because she wasn't gaining weight, and then throughout the life, throughout her life, you really pushed her to do sports and to learn how to study correctly and to stand up for herself and to have good relationships. So I just I don't see that that's true. I mean, just having observed you going through her life, you were very present. Yeah. Did you mess up sometimes? Were you maybe too harsh sometimes? Did you give punishments when you shouldn't have given punishments because it wasn't that big of a deal? Or should you have told her you were more proud of her? Yeah, probably. At the same time, you did pretty good. She's turned out to be a wonderful young lady with lots of nice friends, and I think that you and your husband did pretty good with her.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that, of course, I made some mistakes, and that I could always look back and think about ways that I could parent differently, because I care so deeply about being a good parent. I probably could find ways of improving on my parenting every day, and at the same time that I was a pretty awesome parent, that I was attentive and loving and thoughtful, and also that I was pretty intentional. I wanted her to grow up to be kind of tough and to be able to protect herself. And so I did some things. We could look at it as good, bad. We'll never know. But overall, you're saying you think my husband and I actually, like, worked really hard and gave her a lot of love and a lot of care. And is that really true what you're saying? Do you really believe that, or are you just kind of, trying to make me feel better in this moment?
No, I see it, and I think it's realistic. I think that just seeing the result in your daughter, I think you all did a great job. And then also, part of it is she is who she is.
Mm.
She is who she is. They come out with their own personalities, and she's someone who's just very, very sensitive and very loving and very, very, very caring.
Oh, so you're saying I'm not totally responsible for every aspect of her personality. I'm not totally responsible for how sensitive she is or how anxious she is, that's not actually all my doing. She kind of has a will of her own to be who she is, and that I'm not 100% responsible for every aspect of her personality. Is that really?
Yeah, that's right. They come out with their personalities, and this is her. She's just very, very sensitive, and this is her. So
You don't think that's my fault or my responsibility entirely, who she is and how she is?
no, I don't think it is. I think you're you, and she is who she is, and you've done a wonderful job parenting, and then the rest is really up to her, how she wants to manage her behaviors and her thoughts and her.
Wow. So I'm gonna take a break here, Madeline, and say, and is that true? If what you just said was true for me, and I'm a clone of yours, is that also true for you? Is it also true to say that you did a great job, and that she is who she is, and that she's responsible also for how she turns out and for her actions and behaviors?
Nah.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of bullshit you're feeding me.
Yes, yes,
Is that true
it's
for
also true. It would also be true for me.
And so let's write that down on your daily mood log in the positive thoughts column, Madeline. What would you say there?
That as a parent,
Uh-huh.
I can only go, I can only teach, and by example, and you know, straightforward. I can only teach and be a role model, and then the rest is up to her, and who she is, what her personality, her own values.
Wow. And how much do you believe that thought? I'm writing that down in the positive thoughts column. As a parent, I can only teach and be an example and be a role model, and the rest is up to her and who she is and her own values. How much do you believe that thought?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then, so then how much do you believe the thought, well, we'll look at both of them, but I was not present or there enough for her? How true is that thought?
Um, um, yeah, it's still a little bit true.
How true would we rate that? And also it seemed like that thought was like, and that's awful, and that's responsible, and therefore I'm responsible for
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Um,
0 to 100, how true is that?
yeah, so it's probably I think I could have done maybe 30% better. So maybe 30% true.
Okay, great. And we wouldn't want to change it entirely, because we all want to be honest and look back and think about ways we could do things differently. You're still parenting her, right? You still have choices about the way that you parent. So it seems to me that would, and then the other thought, though, that we targeted in the double standard technique, I think, was that original thought. Wait, let me find it and have you rate that. I just got on the wrong page. Yeah, that maybe that you didn't adequately prepare her innocent soul for the world. So again, that it's this idea that, like, I'm totally responsible for how she's turned out.
And those are two different thoughts.
Yeah, it is. We didn't capture it, but it seemed like a big thought that was driving Madeline's distress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we could just write that down and ask, how much do you believe that thought? I'm totally responsible for how she's turned out.
Um, no, I mean that's just not realistic either. There's there's her experiences shape her. Her dad's influence shapes her personality. Yeah, so I can't be. That would not be. That'd be unrealistic.
How much do you believe that thought?
That I'm totally responsible for. Yeah. No, I'm not, because then I would be taking responsibility for how wonderful she is, and that's all me. That's not.
I was thinking that too.
You can't take responsibility for all the bad, you take responsibility for all the good, and I can't do that.
I was thinking how quickly and easily we as parents can take responsibility for the poor things and the poor choices and never give ourselves credit for the amazing stuff. And right, you've shared she's a wonderful person, she has wonderful friends. You're not taking credit for all that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys are doing great, and I'm wondering, Madeline, because I'm tending to time, and we want to give wrap it up and give some time to our audience for questions and comments. But are there any of these negative thoughts that are still eating away at you? You only role played a couple of them, but
yeah, and I'm mindful of the time too. The only thing that I fear would bother me again is if reading another news article. I don't want to start.
we can get to that later if you like.
Okay.
And so we might want to, plan to have you do some exposure, cognitive flooding.
Yeah.
after this presentation. But
Yeah.
right now, I'd rather focus just on what we've been doing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can decide if you want to do some prophylactic, powerful, intimidating techniques. I
Yeah.
told you we have
We can walk you through how to do that for
a
homework,
great
right?
deal more. But are there any of these thoughts that right now are still getting stuck in your throat or whatever?
No, I think we've addressed everything with the role with the back and forth, the double standard, and
Right,
the EOV.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think definitely have addressed.
Awesome. And then let's just see how you're feeling right now,
Okay.
and then we can see how the audience is doing. We can also tell you some other things that you might want to follow up with. But how sad, down, and unhappy are you feeling at this moment? We're going back to your daily mood log and looking at the percent after column.
Um, I don't feel sad, down, or unhappy.
Is that a 0?
Yeah, that's a 0.
Okay, put a 0 there. And then how anxious, worried, panicky, nervous, and frightened do you feel?
Um, like 10.
10, put a 10 there. How inadequate do you feel? So the first went from 85 to 0, the second one from 100 to 10. The inadequate was 100. What's that now?
I don't feel inadequate, so maybe a little bit, 15.
Oh, 15. Okay, great. Yeah, it's nice to keep a little inadequacy.
A little
Um,
humility, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How frustrated are you feeling? That was 90.
Um, not feeling frustrated, 10.
10. And then finally, how upset and angry. They were both in the 25 to 30 range.
Was my goal. Yeah. I'm feeling no less than that. So set maybe yeah, 10, 15.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Great. And now these are some very dramatic reductions, far beyond what you had aimed for.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question is, are these honest, or are you just being nice so as not to embarrass David and Jill in their live demonstration? And secondly, if these are honest, what do you think the healing dimension has been so far? Why did they go down so much?
And so they are honest, even though I'm a paid volunteer, but they are honest.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm not a paid.
yeah,
They're honest. And then the healing dimension was just really, so the distortions, yeah, that's good. But then forcing me to write down what I was saying, I think
yeah,
that was good, because in the moment, so that instead of like going back later and saying, well, can you come up based on all that stuff? Can you come up with a positive thought? Because I think that gets people kind of tangled up, I've noticed.
yeah,
And so that just making me write it down, write down what you just said. She is likely safe. So I think that
yeah,
was really powerful, because I was believing it. I said it. And then going right into using all those thoughts that I believe, and then going right into a method to really to make them bloom.
yeah. And so just to take a simple teaching point out of that, as I've been saying, ever since I wrote Feeling Good, it was published in 1980, I've been saying to people, when you're upset, write down your negative thoughts. But I don't say that anymore. Now I say, write down your effing negative thoughts, damn it. And because it's so very important based on what you said, and then you can begin to see how you're fooling yourself with distortions and so forth. And really, this is like getting out of prison. Even when we did the positive reframing, you still thought you'd be in a 40 or 50% sadness prison and an anxiety prison, and you've let yourself out, and then these things will come creeping back. So some relapse prevention training would be important. But one key that you can decide about, we can't do this today, but to see if you'd want to do some cognitive flooding and desensitize yourself entirely or in part to this horror, so you're not triggered again, the horror that you have when reading articles. And that can be done, although it seems terrifying and impossible right now. But the likelihood of success with that, should you choose to do it, is about 100%. And let me give you the last words here, and then we'll give Madeline last words, and then see what our audience has to say.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think in part, I'll just first make a comment about the conceptualization and then what to do with that. And then also just want to say thank you to Madeline. But yeah, I think that I conceptualize kind of two different things that are going on for you, and they're both related. And one of them has to do with this anxiety that gets triggered when you see or hear about terrible things going on in the world. And obviously, it's especially triggering for you having daughters and worrying about their safety. And from that perspective, we did some work on that piece, but I think the next piece would be doing cognitive exposure. If the goal truly is to be able to read this, hear this, think about this, and not be distressed by it, I think the only cure to that, is kind of inoculating yourself against it. And that's terrifying for most, but completely achievable. And that would mean actually committing to being willing to, let's say, read an article that was really upsetting over and over and over again, even daily, until that article is no longer upsetting to you. And interestingly, it will likely generalize to other kinds of upsetting, news. And so that would be a piece of it, right? Like you could do that for homework, and we could follow up with you on how to do that for homework, but you'd kind of commit to doing that with no distraction, no avoidance, no reassurance, just kind of doing that repeatedly. And that would help with that piece. But I think this other piece that we did target more with externalization of voices, double standard, and the identify the distortions is this kind of intense responsibility that you feel for your daughter. And again, I think these two are related. It's why these things are so upsetting to you. But I think that's what we did a pretty good job of targeting today, is you letting yourself off the hook, you realizing that you have done a lot. And even just by caring the immense amount that you do, you're clearly so thoughtful and proactive in the way that you parent, and being willing to give yourself credit for that and stop, kind of beating yourself up. So we want you to keep doing that for homework too, though, to keep working on that sort of self-compassion, right? That kind of combating all that negative self-blame, self-talk.
Yeah, and one last comment I have is, and then I saw a transformation in you, like a metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly today, because I saw the strong woman that you're aspiring to for yourself and your daughters emerge during the session. You started becoming very strong and confident. I'm sure you experienced that, but it was visually apparent too. And the last thing that I would want to say is your main goal is to help your daughter or your daughters. And do you know now that fantastic thing that you can do that will help your daughters tremendously?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. What is it?
To not be beating myself up all the time.
Yeah. And once you get really good at that, your daughters will suddenly learn how to do it too, if they don't already. But anyway, that you're a very beautiful woman, and I can't thank you enough for your incredible contribution to today. We'll give you the last word, and then we'll get some audience questions and comments.
Thank you both so much. I'm glad to do this because, like I said in the beginning, the two of you are so generous with your teachings, and you're incredible teachers, and you've been told that a million times, but I just can't say it enough. And you all are fantastic role models for all of us, for the world. And I've learned so much from you all, and I want to continue learning, and I'm so happy to do this, and I hope it's helpful. Just wanted to put that out there and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Your generosity for both of you is just so exemplary, and can't say enough.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes.
1,000 times.
Yes, really, really, you just don't see this in the world or in this field even. So
Okay, now we'll turn it over to our
no, I want to say
awesome
one more thing.
Mike.
I want to say
Oh, yeah.
one thing that's important, and that is when you had me when I volunteered and you said, okay, do a DML, and I did it right away. I mean, just filling out the DML, writing down my negative thoughts, circling
Yeah.
feelings, provided a huge sense of relief for me that next day.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to put that out there that it's everybody. These things are so powerful. Just to do them without going where we did today.
Yeah. I'm glad you put it out there because people don't believe it. They dismiss it. They go, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're not doing that. We're telling you how to change your life. Take a piece of paper, damn it, and write your negative thoughts down. That's what the Buddha said 2,500 years ago. And you
Right.
can find that, if you don't believe me, in that book he wrote, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which was interestingly published 700 years after he died.
And
that was an attempt at humor.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have experienced this, other therapist man, but sometimes patients, they just no, it's too much work. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I also wanted to highlight, and then we will turn to, I want to say one thing to the audience, which is make sure you stay until the end. We're not done by any means. We have 50 minutes still left in this workshop, and you do need to stay for the whole time to get your CE credit, but also there's a lot of learning that's going to come through the Q&A and through our sort of analysis of what just happened in this session. So that part's really important. And also we're going to share with you some other learning opportunities for therapists and the general public. But I also wanted to say we didn't really, as a teaching point, we didn't touch on the positive reframing. And I just wanted to say, I think that, you know, the time that we spent with you, Madeline, really thinking about the benefits of these negative thoughts and feelings and what they show about you that's beautiful and awesome, I think was huge. And especially because, Madeline, you do have some mixed feelings. You know, you're not like, I want everything to go to zero. You really want to hang on to some of your anxiety, and you believe that it works for you and that it shows some beautiful things about you. And I just think the audience needs to understand, I believe, David, if we had just gone straight to methods with Madeline, everything would have failed, because I don't think
that's right.
Anyway, Madeline would not want to be less self-critical. Madeline would not want to be less.
This would have been a gruesome session.
Right? Terrible. Push, pull, tug of war.
Yeah, right.
Right. And the reason we sidestepped that was because of positive reframing.
Okay, now let's get on to the Q&A and those final slides on additional resources. And let's fly through the slides so we can spend as much time on Q&A.
Well, we can start with Q&A and then we'll come.
Okay, let's do that then.
Maybe 30 minutes of Q&A and then we can go through those slides.
Great. We've got 3 pages of questions, and then also a lot of people gave
that's right. We've got 45 minutes.
Yes, we do.
Oh, I forgot.
And also there's a lot of wonderful, warm comments toward you, Madeline, and I've captured the vast majority of them, and I'll make sure that you get those. So if people that, you know, were sending comments to Madeline, I've copied and pasted them and make sure she gets those. So I'll jump right in with the questions. There's quite a few, and they're kind of in chronological order of the session. So I noticed on page 3 that A stands for agenda setting instead of assessment of resistance. Was this an intentional change?
It was, I originally called it a paradoxical agenda setting, and then later I thought, we need a better name, so we called it assessment of resistance. And now I've gone back to paradoxical agenda setting because I think that's cooler. But it's just 2 different names for the same thing. And which one do you prefer?
Is the empathy aspect also true for OCD-specific work? At times with OCD and moderate to severe OCD, like an IOP program, I find that I do offer more structured guidance at times.
Well, I don't understand the question at all. We do empathy with all patients, regardless of so-called diagnosis, but empathy doesn't have much healing power or curative power, but it sets up the trust so that you can do powerful things. We did powerful, threatening things with you today, Madeline, and you just breezed through them. And if we hadn't done great empathy and formed that wonderful connection with you, we probably couldn't have done those things.
I think the question also was around, to me, I'm rewording part of it around maybe psychoeducation. And what I would say is, you know, empathy for everyone. Absolutely. And then in my opinion, with OCD in particular, actually, because it's kind of a tricky diagnosis and people don't always understand that compulsions are actually making things worse, I think it can be super helpful to do psychoeducation. But I would always lead with empathy, and then I would, have psychoeducation be part of the methods, right? It's just a description of what's going on and why we're going to do what we're going to do.
Yeah, great. Good point, Jill.
One critique of CBT in general is that it may focus too heavily on changing thought patterns, potentially overlooking the emotional and somatic aspects of trauma, such as nervous system, etc. How does
Yeah.
TEAM-CBT address these body-focused emotional aspects of trauma?
Yeah. That's such a beautiful question. You saw us making that very mistake today of having a session with no emotion in it. And that's like somebody pointing at snow and saying, "See, I told you it was black."
But it's interesting. Somebody also made the comment that Madeline actually looks different now, like her body,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
Madeline, you can comment to that.
yeah, yeah,
Physically, do you feel different than at the beginning?
yeah, yeah. But I
You look
wonder
like
why people make comments like that. There's no emotions in team therapy or cognitive therapy. Today was chock full of emotions. So I don't know if you're hallucinating. I don't mean to be insulting to our audience, but
I think
I guess our work can speak for itself.
I think that question was before they saw it, so they might have a different question now.
Oh,
So,
okay. So
um,
whoever you are, we'll forgive you. We're
yeah.
often off base too.
This is not the CBT you learned in school.
Yeah.
Right. Emotion is central to it. And in fact, if we thought our patient was rationalizing and not really kind of sinking into the feelings and not connecting, we would be pointing that out. And you actually even saw, David, there was a response, I can't remember exactly, but early during empathy where I said something and Madeline kind of had a rushed or hurried sort of dismissive response. And then
Yeah.
David kind of checked in and was like, oh, that didn't land right. Let's so we're super into emotion. In fact, and when Madeline started crying, we said, yes, we love tears, let those tears flow. And for sure, no way of doing it without the feelings.
When I catch myself in distorted thoughts, somebody is saying I can challenge them in the moment, but they often come back later. What's the best way to make changes stick?
You want to do that, Jill?
Yeah, I mean, you and I might have slightly different responses. Someone also asked, I believe these changes happen today, but I believe Madeline will be anxious in a week or something like that. And so I think what we would say is that we believe and we experience with our patients that lots of times people will experience meaningful change. And then, of course, we're creatures of habit. We might go back to our old negative thoughts and feelings, but the methods that helped us to change in the therapy session in the moment will be helpful to us in the future. So I would say homework is integral to maintaining change, right? And Madeline is going to need to keep working on this daily mood log and kind of keep reminding herself of these things, and also probably need to do some exposure if she wants to really get over these fears.
Yeah. And also, we didn't have time to do it today, but at the end of therapy, I do relapse prevention training with every patient, and and I have them talk back to the kind of thoughts they have during relapse, and also tape record that session so that when the relapse comes, I've always told my patient, I'll give you a lifetime money back guarantee. And if you ever relapse and can't break out of it on your own, I hope that happens, because then I'll see you again. Because if you don't, I'll never see you again. I just got to liking you now that you went and recovered on me. But I had really good luck. But I think patients need to know there's 100% probability that you'll relapse. That's an inherent property of the universe, of being human. There's no way of getting around it. But what we can do is prepare you for it, because the problem you had the first time is the same problem that will come back when you relapse. And the methods that were helpful to you for the first time will be equally helpful to you, if not more so, when you relapse.
I have a patient with a mild head trauma. He denies any negative thinking. He says he is anxious due to his head trauma. Do you think this is true?
Well, it's impossible to have any anxiety without the thought that triggers it.
And I'll have a slightly nuanced response, which is, can chemical things cause anxiety? You know, can drugs cause anxiety, meaning heart rate and maybe even a fight or flight response? Could head trauma or brain changes, you know, somehow, like if he literally had some changes to his amygdala, like could that trigger anxiety? It's possible, right? But most likely what we see even with head injured patients, that what's actually driving their distress are their thoughts about their situation. So thoughts like, I'm never
Right.
gonna get better, I'll never be able to do X, Y, or Z again, I'm totally damaged, or whatever it would be. So generally when we work with patients, even with medical conditions, head injury, it's their thoughts that are driving their feelings.
Yeah, a lot of times patients say, I don't know what my thoughts are, I'm just anxious. And if we have podcasts on like the stick figure technique, and we've addressed this in podcasts many times, 100% of the time, you can, if you use skillful techniques as a therapist, you can help the patient identify the thoughts that are triggering their feelings. Beck's theory of cognitive specificity is helpful in that regard. It tells you what kind of thought you're having based on your emotion. So if you're anxious, you're having a thought that you're in danger, that something bad is going to happen, like you were having, Madeline. If you're guilty, you're telling yourself that you're bad. If you're depressed, you're telling yourself that you've lost something central to your self-esteem. If you're hopeless, you're feeling yourself that you're telling yourself you'll be miserable forever, that things will never change. If you're angry, you're telling yourself that somebody's trying to screw you over and take advantage of you and hurt you, and that someone's behaving badly and trying to exploit you. So that can help. But there's a lot, the stick figure technique, there's a lot of techniques you can use to identify what your thoughts are. And the cool thing about that is once you realize it's your thoughts, and you'll find that they're distorted, and then you can change the way you think and feel, even if you have head trauma.
You often say depression and anxiety can be quickly relieved with the right tools. What's the most common block that prevents people from experiencing that rapid change?
Resistance.
How can we know that the brief mood survey won't be faked?
Just take it with your patients. For example, a lot of therapists naively say, oh, they won't be honest when they fill it out. There is a big problem of honesty with the brief mood survey and evaluation of therapy session, and that's that patients are honest, and your own thinking is screwed up. The patients are honest, and you're going to get some information that's going to be very disturbing to you. The question isn't, are patients honest? The question is, can therapists tolerate patient honesty? For example, on my empathy scale, many therapists report that when they start using it for the first time, they get failing grades on 50 to 100% of their patients at every single therapy session on every single day. Can you tolerate that? And if you get failing grades from empathy from your patients, are you going to think they're being dishonest? They're honest or dishonest? They're being honest. They're telling you you're failing on empathy. You don't get how I feel inside. It'll be right there in plain sight for you. And the question is, do you, the therapist, have the courage to see how your patients feel and how they feel about you? Do you have the courage to find out how effective you were in the session? We saw today, Madeline's scores went from very high to very low. That's what we're trying to do. And if it hadn't happened, we would know that. And if it does happen, you know that. The problem with the assessments is not the assessment tools. They're spectacularly accurate and powerful. The problem is with the therapists who refuse to use them. And I won't say any more, because if I start on that, I'll never stop.
Can this approach of Team CBT be used for students? It is in a high school setting.
Sure. The question is, can CBT be used for high school students?
Yeah, the Team
Like
CBT approach.
teenagers? Absolutely, for sure. I will also say I did a presentation on this to my sons are both teenagers, and I did a presentation for their when they were maybe juniors in high school for a bunch of students, and it involved them doing their own work during the presentation. And it was even just an hour-long presentation. I walked them through the daily mood log, identified distortions, and did a couple role-playing techniques with them. And even in a large group audience, they did great. So absolutely.
One of our
Yeah,
colleagues.
I've
Go ahead,
always
David.
loved working with teenagers. I did a presentation at the juvenile hall where they had wanted me to speak to a group of violent teenage girls and violent teenage boys, and I spent about an hour with both groups, and it was one of the most moving 2 hours of my life. I thought they were going to be real hardcore, and they weren't at all. They just opened up their hearts. The neat thing about teenagers is that they're vulnerable and open for the most part. And even if they're violent crime, gang members, they all seem pretty tender to me. One of them was somebody who'd murdered two people, and he was so hungry to have someone to talk to and to open up with.
And in fact, I always say that I think a CBT, we should be teaching it in the schools, like in elementary school, right? We should be teaching kids to identify their anxious thoughts and their, negative thoughts, and learning that their thoughts control their feelings, and, showing them lots of ways of having more emotional awareness. So I'm thinking all parts of this could help people from a really young age.
Jill and I have a colleague, Dr. Taylor Chesney in New York, who offers actually a 12-week course on how to implement this approach. And she's also done a number of podcasts with David Burns. If you go to David's podcast, you can get a sneak preview on some of that there. So
Right.
If you want to take any courses from Taylor, she's a great teacher. And as you say,
yeah,
she's
she's
been on
brilliant.
podcast and she is lucid. She knows her stuff and she makes sense.
Totally.
I know as a therapist, we're taught not to overshare personal information or opinions, self-disclosure, when dealing with a client who insists on knowing therapist opinions situations. So how do we navigate that? What's a good way to balance that?
I think that I'm talking too much here, but I think self-disclosure is powerful and positive. It can be negative and do damage too. It's all not what you do; it's how you do it, what skill you use. But when I use self-disclosure, I share something in an optimistic light for the patient. Like I'll do it with you now, Madeline. I want you to know that I've myself personally experienced 17 anxiety disorders since I've been a kid, going right up until recent times. And that's why I love treating anxiety and panic like what you experienced, because I know how awful that is. And also, it's going to be and was such a joy showing you how to find your way out of the woods. And that's the message that patients want to hear, that I've been there, I know what that's like, but I have the solution. I've done my work, and I've got the tools to help you change the way you think and feel.
I have one other thing to add to that, which is I did hear, Mike, though, that the therapist question said, like, when the patient insists on you telling them
Yeah.
what you think. And so that actually sounds a lot to me like reassurance. And so I think the question you always need to be asking yourself if you're using self-disclosure is, what function does it serve? Why am I choosing to disclose this information to this patient at this time? And is it going to be helpful or harmful? So if a patient with OCD is obsessing over whether they made the right decision or not, whether they were a good parent or not, me giving them reassurance is actually hurtful,
Addicting them.
right? Say,
Yeah. Addicting them to
right,
you.
exactly. it's
Yeah.
reinforcing their anxiety rather than helping them. And so then I am most definitely not going to. And then I use a different method called changing the focus, is kind of point out to the patient what's happening and what they're wanting and looking for, and what, you know, and kind of what's happening between the two of us. And so I definitely wouldn't reassure my patient who was looking for excessive reassurance.
This one might be for either of you, but Jill, when you have a client who can identify their cognitive distortions and identify a replacement thought that's positive true, but that thought does not make them feel better, what do we do?
Well, there's
go
the
ahead.
well, I'll let you take it, Jill. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Well, there's the necessary and sufficient conditions for emotional change. I've written about it hundreds of times and spoken about it hundreds of times, and I'll do it once more right now. That there's a necessary and sufficient condition for emotional change, and that you have to come up with let's say you've got a negative thought in the negative thought column, a distorted negative thought, like I'm worthless. You need to have a positive thought that has two conditions. First, it has to be 100% true. And second, it has to radically lower your belief in the negative thought. And if it does those two things, your feelings will automatically and instantly change. If it doesn't do those two things, that's why I say you have to fail as fast as you can and try many techniques until you find the one you can come up with a positive thought that crushes the negative thoughts. You saw some of that today in the role playing. You, Madeline, were awesome, but you didn't get everything right away. So we had to be doing role reversals as you suddenly saw how to crush your negative thoughts. And when you did, your feelings dramatically changed.
We also say there's really three possibilities if a method isn't working, meaning if a patient can't generate a positive thought that's helpful to them. One possibility is that we executed the method incorrectly, right? We just didn't do it.
Yeah,
Then we got to learn how to do it better. Another possibility is that method didn't work for that patient, and that's totally fine because we've got a ton of other methods. We can just move on and try something else. And then the third possibility is that it's resistance kind of
yeah,
rearing its ugly head. And then there probably were times in our session with Madeline where we could have fallen back. We could have said, oh, maybe this isn't something you want our help with. Maybe this anxiety is really serving you well. And you kind of want to sit on the side of the patient's resistance if they are showing some of that, so that they can get you back on track and sort of argue for change. So sometimes when patient isn't able to come up with a positive thought that they believe or that really hits at the gut level, we need to explore whether there's good reasons not to change.
Someone just asked a question: do negative thoughts have to go down all the way to zero? And that they don't always. Like should statements, like I shouldn't have screwed up. You might reduce that from 100 to 25 or something, because there's truth in it. You made an error. You screwed up, and so just you can lower the impact of that statement without having to lower it all the way to zero.
Yeah, and we did that with Matt. There was one thought, Madeline, at the end when we were doing double standard, we lowered from 95 to 30, and you were like, yeah, that makes sense. I do want to hold myself a little bit accountable, and that
Yeah.
sounds right to me. And so, yeah, we're not in the business of feeding our patients BS, right? We want them to come up with positive thoughts that are totally believable and then change their belief in the negative thought to what makes sense. Most of the time, that's totally crushing the negative thought, but there are some good reasons to hang on to some belief.
Yeah.
At the end of the empathy section, David asked 3 questions to check in on empathy. What were the 3 questions that you asked again, David?
One is the thought empathy question. How accurately, Madeline, did we understand your thoughts? That's called thought empathy. Feeling empathy is to what extent did we understand how you were feeling inside, the names of your emotions, anger, frustration, sadness, anxiety, panic, and so forth. And then the third question is to what extent did we create an atmosphere of warmth and trust and acceptance? That's the kind of the warm, trusting component of therapy.
When you did the positive reframe, you listed the feelings in the first column rather than the thoughts. The positive reframe asked for thoughts or feelings. Can you comment on that?
We did a bit of each. We did mostly feelings, that's true. But actually, I know because I remember bringing up a couple of Madeline's negative thoughts, like when we talked about inadequate, which was an emotion. I think we, connected that to saying something like when you tell yourself, I didn't prepare her innocent soul for the world, what does that show about you that's really beautiful and awesome? So I think the tendency is kind of to go with the emotions, but I actually think it can be really helpful to positively reframe thoughts when you're beating up on yourself. What does it show about you? It shows that you care deeply about being a wonderful parent, So I actually think highlighting the thoughts can sometimes put more meat on the bones, but right, I think it does. You can go with either or both.
At some
Let
point,
me just get
go
to
ahead,
you,
David.
Madeline. Do you have, you're kindly being quiet and listening, but you may have something to say about some of these questions as
Yeah.
well.
No, I'm listening to the two of you. Yeah.
Okay.
At some point, David almost started crying. Is that acceptable at TEAM-CBT from a therapist?
I think it's ideal. Yeah. But it depends on what you're crying about. Like if you're crying and the patient says, You're not helping me," and you start crying and say, "Yeah, my wife is divorcing me too, and my dog has left me, and I really am no good." That starts sobbing uncontrollably. That won't help your patient. But to have tears come to your eyes because you're so moved by what the patient is saying, to me, that's a beautiful thing.
What was that like for you, Madeline, when David got a bit emotional?
I'm sorry, I didn't really notice. I was just trying to wipe my own tears.
Yeah.
But it would make me feel, had I noticed, I'd be, that's really touching. He is feeling what I'm feeling or understanding what I'm feeling and saying and can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
Yeah, we've oftentimes shared with therapists that we train, David, that we feel like tears coming from us are, beautiful. And I do definitely cry with patients. And I can say I know how my patients respond because I get the brief mood survey and the evaluation of therapy session at every session, and my patients always respond with lots of appreciation and connection, and I think it makes them feel really cared about and really seen.
For the pivot question, Jill asked Madeline, given all the benefits of the feelings and thoughts, why would she want to press that button? But at the beginning, Madeline said that she wasn't sure she wanted to press the button. Was that a mistake on Jill's part to ask that pivot question, or what would be an alternative way of asking that question, given that Madeline didn't want to necessarily press the button at the beginning?
Sure. Yeah. So I think so in the beginning, when we asked her, David, the magic button question, she said, no, I wouldn't want them all to go away, but I think she said maybe, but I would want them to be less, right?
Yeah, that's
We
my
did,
memory too.
and then we did positive reframing. So then I think, yeah, that's a fair question. I don't think it was an error. I think it's all sort of like a metaphor, right? We're not really splitting hairs. It's like a metaphor for, yeah, there's all these benefits. I guess I could have said, like, why would you want to change, right? Because obviously she's here telling us, I want your help, I want to change. So that's the goal of that pivot question, kind of given all these benefits, why would you want to change? If the patient says, I don't want to change, we've got nothing to work on, right? But presumably there, Madeline was sharing with us because it's too much, right? Because I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be up all night.
During the outcome resistance, Madeline was saying that they're too high, the negative feelings, and then I believe it was David asked how would asking how are they too high, the negative feelings, be helpful? It was kind of setting up the magic dial.
Was there a question?
Yeah, how is asking that question? How are they too high? Those emotions, when after Madeline had been arguing for change and saying, well, oh, but those emotions
Right.
are too high, the anxiety is too high. Well, why would you ask that question? How are they too high? Like, why is that helpful?
I think David, you want me to take this one?
No,
Go for it.
I said no.
Oh, I said, do you want me to take this one? So yes,
Yeah, you
the
two, you
answer is
take it.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, big yes.
sure. Right. I think what happened was Madeline was wrestling a little bit with the thoughts, with the percent of emotions, her goals on the goal column, and kind of, did I want them to be 50%? That's awfully
Oh,
high.
yeah. Hmm.
And so we were trying to help Madeline figure out, we were trying to get at, like, why would she want them to be lower, right? We're basically, we did a beautiful job of positive reframing. So it was clear, like, how she wants to hang on to these. And then the question was like, well, why would you want to change? Why would you want to feel less sad? What is it costing you? We were just trying to sort of negotiate what the goal would be for her.
If you'll be seeing someone for ongoing 2-hour sessions, can you see them multiple times a week, or do you recommend once a week to have enough time for homework?
Either or would be my answer. Sometimes I see people twice a week. Sometimes I see them once a week. And it's a fair point. You know, we definitely want people to have an opportunity to do homework between sessions, but also more, kind of loading therapy and doing sort of more intensive therapy can be really beneficial too.
Question: if there's some advantages in negative emotions, anxiety, upset, frustration, and they want to be decreased, then why not have the same attitude toward negative self in this case? I mean, why do you ask a patient to battle against it instead of modifying it, the negative thoughts?
I think we do ask them to modify their negative thoughts, right?
I think this one came when we were identifying distortions and just challenging them, and then would lead to later actually using the acceptance paradox, where some of the thoughts we don't need to crush completely.
Maybe if you understand the question better, maybe you can answer it, Mike. I
Yeah.
don't mean that facetiously at all, but I mean,
Yeah,
like,
no. I think what they were driving at in the context is, we try to crush the negative thought. Well, there's two ways. One is to defeat it completely, say it's just not true at all. Another way is to actually to accept it and not let it have any power over us. And so we accept that there is some truth in it, but it doesn't bother us anymore, right? Like, I'm a terrible parent. I really identified with either Madeline, and I can look back and go, well, actually, that's probably one of my better qualities because I'm constantly learning and growing. And so it's a good reminder to tell myself that I don't need to say it's not true, because
yeah,
there are moments when I'm a terrible parent, and that's okay.
totally. I feel like that was your gift too, Madeline. Like when we're doing the double standard technique, is just recognizing that, yeah, like telling yourself that you've made some errors and some mistakes and that you'd want to do things differently is a gift rather than a curse.
Just a couple more. I think we want to go to, what time do we want to go till here, Jill?
Yeah, maybe until 45, and then we'll
Okay,
do
yeah,
our
we've got.
follow-up kind of
No, there's
slides, and
been
also yeah, I want to just ask Madeline also if she has anything else she wants to say just as she's digesting.
perfect. I know there's been a bunch more come in the chat that we haven't been able to capture, but we'll do our best with ones we have here. Somebody had said, and this one's for David, I never really internalized how it is that a magic dial will actually work in percentages, simply because you eliminate a portion of a positive and wonderful aspect of a negative thought. Simply cannot mean that the very same positive and wonderful aspect is not separately present in the person's pre-existing continuing character. That's a mouthful. It seems highly likely that the patient has in fact been treasuring the positive aspect of the negative thought emotion, that the person probably is familiar with that positive aspect in other places in their life. Can you speak to this? I guess this is the kind of.
I can't because I got confused by the language at the very beginning, so I didn't grasp it at all. But
How about
Mike,
I ask you, David, can you just share with people, I think this is more to the point if it's okay, just maybe tell people a little bit about what's the purpose of the magic dial? Why do we
Yeah.
do that? How is that useful?
yeah, well, the purpose of the magic dial, once you've gone through the positive reframing, is we're making a deal with the subconscious mind. Like, tell me how low you're willing to go on each of these feelings, and then, okay, well, I want to go 40 on anxiety, and 10 on inadequacy, and 15 on hopelessness, or whatever. And so we're telling the subconscious mind we'll lower them to this level, but no lower. That puts the patient in control. So again, we're not selling anything to the patient, which is the cause of all therapeutic failure. We're avoiding that basic therapeutic error. Now, however, the goal column is an illusion because that's coming from the patient's brain right now. But the brain is constantly changing. And once we get into the methods like externalization of voices or the beautiful way, Jill, that you did the double standard technique, the patient's values will suddenly change. And you, Madeline, are suddenly saying, maybe I don't need all that stuff. I don't need a 50 on anxiety today. Do you see what I mean, Madeline?
Mhm.
Like you're feeling fine now, and that's fine. It's okay to feel fine. And so they'll often lower them way lower, which you did, Madeline, than the goals. So it's a kind of a trick that we're playing on the patient, you might say. We're playing a trick on the subconscious mind, but it's a benevolent trick because we're trying to coax a person into recovery.
And someone also asked David, what would happen if we did the magic button and the pivot question, and then the person after positive reframing just didn't want to change, if they realize that these show some beautiful things about me, and
Yeah.
I
I would
realize
just say,
I'm fine.
say that that's awesome, and I've never helped anyone against their will, and so if you're in good shape now, that's fine with me. If there's something you do want to work on, I would be, more than happy to hear what that is, and we could see what we could do with that.
Exactly. So we kind of sit with open hands. We're not in the business of trying to change people against their will.
Yeah,
Not good for anybody.
Great. Thank
yeah,
you so much for everyone's questions. I know there's lots more we didn't get to, and I think Jill's going to give some
Yeah.
options for ongoing training where some of those questions may be answered.
I was also I would ask, is it, Madeline, if I could ask you, maybe you already answered this, but I don't think so, but what do you, like, people, I saw a couple of people in the chat said, just Madeline, what do you think was most helpful about the session?
Um, that's hard to say because it goes together as a package. This is very helpful to identify the distortions and write them down.
Yeah. Okay. So that piece, that was really important when David kind of stopped you and said, great, let's write that down, and realize you were able to generate positive thoughts right off the bat.
Yeah, I was like, you said that. Write down, you said it.
Okay. So what I'll do is share some more slides with people and let you guys know how you can continue to learn and grow with us. And also in a few minutes, Mike is going to drop the link in the chat box so that you can complete your CE survey. And then we'll wrap up. So I guess I would say if today's training sparked something for you, if you feel excited to learn more and to take your skills deeper, we'd invite you to join us in the Fast Track to Level 3 certification course. And this is kind of our most efficient and powerful way to help therapists get truly excellent at TEAM-CBT. And our course kind of starts today. The live aspect of it, live training groups, really starts next week. So you can register until, I think, kind of midnight on Monday night. Our first practice group starts on Tuesday. And you saw a couple of methods today, just kind of one or maybe a handful of things that are possible, but you can see on this slide that we teach more than 50 advanced CBT techniques. And at the bottom of the slide tells you about a discount code, and I'm going to have Mike drop that in the chat box just because I'll move on to the next slide. But we're offering you a discount if you want to join us for next week. And this slide is awfully busy, but that's because the Fast Track course includes really a ton of material. So it's 16 hours of on-demand content. That's videos of me teaching. It's fun, lively interviews of David and I. There's 25 weeks of kind of small group coaching with Maor and Mike and LJ and Kevin, depending on what rotation you're in. You get 46 CE credits. You get David's amazing toolkit. And certification and exam fees, and then there's also the coupon. And so if people are feeling interested in registering, you can go to fasttrackcbt.com. And yeah, I wanted to share with you guys, I think there's just a couple of testimonial quotes people have shared with us over time, and they're really meaningful. I'm always hearing people sharing with me how grateful they are for the course. They love reviewing the videos. They feel like the skills they're learning are dramatically improving their practices, and that they're feeling kind of excited and motivated about learning and growing and seeing that their patients are getting a lot better. So I'm hoping that some of you will take advantage of that and join us. And then I want David to share with you a little bit about the Feeling Great app.
Yeah, the Feeling Great app is something I've had as a fantasy for 50 years, and finally got a group to help me create it in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's really using my voice and my teaching with classes and lessons to help you and your patients really understand TEAM-CBT. These are interactive, kind of fun classes and lessons. And also, we've trained a little, David AI to interact with you exactly how you saw me and Jill and I interacting with Madeline today. It's really cool. And it's not therapy, it's a self-help tool, but it seems to be very effective. And our latest data on it has indicated that within 90 minutes of the first time that people sit down with the Feeling Great app, there's a reduction between 60 and 70% in 7 negative feelings: depression, anxiety, guilt, shame, loneliness, hopelessness, and anger. And so it has powerful mood boosting effects, and can really, you can have your patient use it for homework and continue their learning outside of the sessions. The neat thing about it is over the summer and up through the end of September, we're giving it away entirely for free. And so if you jump on it, I guess try that code there. You can download it and install it for free, and check it out and see what you think. But it's it's kind of vastly surpassed our wildest expectations, to be honest with you.
And it's really a wonderful tool for patients. So if you're in the general public, but also a wonderful tool for therapists to use with their patients, right? To like
Oh,
encourage your patients to download it now for free, and
yeah,
then you can use it to really, enhance the treatment that you're doing with your patients, right? They can do those
right.
exercises along for homework and things like that. And then also we have a slide here with just other ways to learn and grow for free. So David and I lead a group on Tuesday nights that's online on Zoom. And if you're interested in joining that, if you're a therapist, it's only for therapists, but the contact here is on this screen. And Rhonda, who does the Feeling Good podcast with David, also has her own training group with Kai on Wednesdays. There is the Feeling Good podcast that you can download and listen to, and then the Feeling Great YouTube channel. And we've been putting some of our webinars and workshops on the YouTube channel as well. So these are all great ways that you can continue to learn and grow with us. And then Mike is putting in the chat box the CE survey. So if you're a therapist, make sure you complete that. Mike, there's also a separate survey that's for the general public. So do not complete the general public survey if you're a therapist. But if you're a member of the general public and you joined and you want to give us a little feedback on how today went for you, we're happy to hear from you too. And then I think we also want to make sure that we give just a really heartfelt thank you to Madeline, our brave volunteer. I feel incredibly grateful to you for sharing so much of yourself with us.
It's our superstar of the movie we made today. And you were beautiful, Madeline, and just awesome. And you gave so much of yourself. And I think the impact of what you did today will be extensive and going on for a long, long time. It was really just fantastic. I can't thank you enough.
Back at you, two of you. Thank you so much.
And I can't help but think how lucky your daughters are to have
Oh,
you.
yes. Oh, yes.
I know that I'm
Absolutely.
not allowed to be a cheerleader, but since
Yeah.
therapy's over, as a human being and a
Yeah.
colleague, I just want to say I
Oh,
do
yeah.
touched my
Yeah.
heart today. I'm a mom who cares deeply
Yeah.
about parenting, and I just admire, how much you love and care for these girls and how hard you've been working. And that was, really beautiful and touching.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Jill.
And then I'll just say thank you to everybody else, including Mike. Thanks, Mike, for helping us run a tight ship today and conveying so much from the audience. You had a tough job. And thank you to the audience for being with us today, whether you joined us as a therapist or someone exploring, new ways to feel better. We hope that you had some fun today, that you learned something useful. And we'd love to, to continue to get to know you, to see you in one of our training groups, or if you're looking for help for yourself or a loved one, feel free to reach out to us at the Feeling Good Institute, and feel free to download the app. It just
Yeah.
really happy to
And
connect with you.
Jill,
and
just
thanks
one.
to Maor Katz for making this and so many other workshops available. I just appreciate the hell out of you, Maor. It's fantastic. I can't believe our good fortune in being able to reach so many people with these webinars.
Yeah, it takes a lot actually to create these webinars and to be able to offer them for free. Hopefully, we're offering a big gift to people out there. And yeah. Mike, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just there's a number of people that haven't been able to access the CEs due to firewalls in their the link. And so please send an email to our certification at FGI, and we'll make sure you get that link for the CE credits and do that
Yeah.
today. So it has to be eliminated.
So yeah, send an email right now to certification@feelinggoodinstitute.com, and she'll share the CE survey with you so you can complete it and get your CE credits.
Great, yeah. There's just a
Yeah.
few that their work doesn't allow them to open that link directly
Yeah.
from us. So
Got it. Okay. So thanks to everyone, and hopefully
Bye.
see you in a future training. And thanks again, Madeline. Thanks,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah. I love you all.
love you too, David.
Madeline and Jill and Mike, but all of you who attended today. I love you too.
Thanks, David. Love you too.